week of politics awaits. Let's get cracking.
So it is time for another glorious revolution to get us back to a fully sovereign parliament, and where the government really is the government. For that, my friends, Britain needs reform.
Yesterday, former Chancellor Nadhim Zahawi became the latest and the biggest name Conservative to defect to Nigel Farage's Reform UK. The Tories have already brutally blasted him as a has-been. But with his vast experience, is Zahawi precisely what Reform UK needs to be fit and ready to govern? And in its ongoing war of words against Elon Musk, the Labour Party has today hinted it might ban X, as Ofcom launch a probe into its Grok AI app that puts women and children in bikinis. A sensible precaution to keep women and children safe, or, as Donald Trump claims, a lurch towards a Russia-style ban. We'll be live for questions from Parliament.
This is fantastic news, isn't it? And of course, every case is a tragedy, and we do an amazing job supporting the families in those moments, and we solve 95% of those cases.
Yeah, the Met Chief Sir Mark Rowley and Sadiq Khan, London's mayor, have today claimed homicides in London are down by 11%. But is London really safer under London's mayor? Well, GBNews has done a deeper dive into the horrific data, and it paints a very, very different picture to that of Sir Sadiq. I'll be joined in the studio by Reform UK's mayoral hopeful Layla Cunningham, who Mayor Khan has blasted for spreading distortions and untruths about London being in a grip of a crime wave.
Now our country has voted decisively for change, for national renewal.
Should there be an immediate general election? Well, that was the question posed in a petition that amassed over 1 million signatures. And during today's show, a 3-hour debate will kick off on that very topic. We'll be there live and be asking the even bigger question: is this the beginning of the end for Sir Keir Starmer? And as Donald Trump considers very strong options for American involvement in Iran, the Islamic Republic warns any attack will wreak retaliation after more than 500 protesters at least are now reported dead as unrest in Iran spirals. One of those killed includes a 23-year-old student anti-regime protester who was shot in the back of the head and buried by the roadside. We'll have all the latest throughout the show. That is an action-packed show, and it's all coming up in your next hour. On to the show, it's a pleasure to have your company. Should there be an immediate general election? Well, 1 million of you said yes, there should be. And the debate kicks off in today's show. It's unlikely to have much impact. They'll say, well, we had a general election in July of 2024, but will we have one sooner than anticipated? Andy Burnham sniffing around for a safe seat for the Labour Party. Is Sir Keir Starmer counting off the days before there is a general election, perhaps sooner rather than later? Get in touch, gbnews.com/your say is the way to do so, or scan your QR code on the screens now. If that floats your boat, but now's your headlines, and here's Katie Bowen.
Martin, thank you and good afternoon. The headlines at 3:03. Former Conservative Chancellor Nadhim Zahawi has defected to Reform UK, declaring Britain is drinking at the last chance saloon. Standing alongside Nigel Farage in London, Mr Zahawi said the country really does need Nigel Farage as Prime Minister to pull it back from what he called a dark and dangerous chapter. Mr Farage hailed the move as proof Reform UK is not a one-man band. The Conservative Party has hit back, calling Mr Zahawi a has-been, while Labour Party Chair Anna Turley described him as a discredited politician.
If you don't yet realise that Britain needs reform, you know in your heart of hearts that our wonderful country is sick. How many of you at home have thought to yourselves that nothing works today? I know I have, and I have it a damn sight easier than most people. That is why I'm standing here today as the newest member of Reform UK.
Elsewhere today, Britain's media regulator has launched a formal investigation into X over claims its AI tool Grok is being used to generate sexualised images of women and children. Ofcom says it gave the company a deadline to explain how it's protecting UK users and has now fast-tracked a probe into whether it's breaking the Online Safety Act. The watchdog is examining whether illegal content is being blocked, removed quickly and kept away from children, including whether X has proper age checks in place. Ofcom warns it has the power to issue huge fines or, in the most serious cases, even push for X to be blocked in the UK. Well, the Business Secretary, Peter Kyle, says what he's seen and heard about is disgusting and clearly unlawful and expects it to be dealt with.
Ofcom have all the powers to enforce the law. Now, the law dictates that no hateful or illegal content goes online, onto social media platforms. Ofcom have asked X to provide information. They provided it. Ofcom are now doing an expedited investigation into whether they have stepped outside of the law or not. If they have, then this government expects the independent regulator and enforcement agency to enforce the law to the full extent of the law.
To the Middle East, where Iran is entering a third week of unrest with a rising death toll and the regime tightening its grip on nationwide protests. Human rights groups say at least 544 people have been killed and more than 10,000 arrested as protests harden into open defiance of the supreme leader. From Washington, President Donald Trump says Iran wants to negotiate, but warns he hasn't ruled out military action, with the White House now weighing what it calls very strong options.
We're watching it very closely. If they start killing people like they have in the past, I think they're going to get hit very hard by the United States.
Well, inside Iran, an internet blackout continues, cutting off the outside world as state TV insists the streets are calm. But on the ground, activists say the crackdown is intensifying, with arrests, disappearances and deadly force still being used. London's murder rate has fallen to its lowest level in more than a decade, according to new figures from the Metropolitan Police. 97 homicides were recorded last year, giving London a lower murder rate than New York, Berlin or Milan. And teenage killings have dropped to their lowest level since 2012. Police Chief Mark Rowley says targeted operations against gangs and knife carriers are shattering fewer families, calling it the product of amazing police work. But City Hall and opposition figures are still clashing over whether Londoners actually feel safer. And tens of thousands of people across Sussex and Kent are starting the week without running water after Kent County Council declared a major incident. South East Water blames Storm Goretti, freezing weather and a power failure at a pumping station, with 14 postcodes still dry around East Grinstead, Frant and Tunbridge Wells. Schools, libraries and even parts of the local hospital have been forced to shut, with bottled water being handed out and tankers sent in to keep essential services running. Local MP Mike Martin says the situation is bizarre, warning the water company must now get a grip. Those are the latest GBNews headlines. Now a quick look at the markets.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GBNews Financial Report.
Here's a quick look at those markets. The pound will buy you $1.3478 and €1.1531. The price of gold is £3,420 and 24 pence per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 10,126 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GBNews Financial Report.
Thank you, Katie. What a week ahead we have in politics. Let's get cracking. Today's top story is this. The former Conservative Chancellor, Nadhim Zahawi, today announced an extraordinary and surprise defection to Nigel Farage's Reform UK earlier on today, insisting that Britain needs reform, whilst also taking aim at his former party, who he claimed made the country less competitive and less prosperous.
It is time for another glorious revolution to get us back to a fully sovereign parliament, and where the government really is the government. For that, my friends, Britain needs reform.
Oh, Mr. Zahawi there saying Britain needs reform. Is that the case? Well, I'm joined in the studio by GBNews political editor Chris Hope, and also because Brexit. Yes, my favourite topic is back in the news, the so-called Brexit clause, a Farage clause in Sir Keir Starmer's latest deal. I'm also joined by the economist and the fellow at the Centre for Brexit Policy, Catherine McBride. Welcome to you both. Chris, let's start with you. It took everybody by surprise, this latest defection. Nadeem Zahawi, of course, the former Chancellor of the Conservatives and the Vaccines Minister, and it brought swift rebuke from the Conservatives, who seem to be smarting somewhat at this. But here's my question to you. Is this the kind of appointment that Reform UK needs? Does it prove, actually, that they are little more than a reheated Conservative party, or is it precisely the kind of appointment that they need to be deemed as fit and credible to govern the country?
The answer to that, Martin, and great to see you again, hope you had a good weekend, is it's both. You've got Nigel Farage needs expertise around him. He needs to bring in people who have run departments, elements of government. Now, Nadeem Zahawi fits that mould ideally, former Chancellor, Education Secretary, Senior Minister across the board. Yes, he resigned over his tax affairs. He's got to talk about that, and so we know that all that the tax issues have been cleared up. So, yes, he ticks the box on experience, but there's a problem here because he's so tied to those many 14 years of failure, as Nigel Farage would say. It almost neuters or blunts the Farage attacks on the Tories, because the Tories might say, well, if you're so against what we tried to do when we were in power, why have you hired someone so closely aligned to it? There's been, I think that the audience in Reform voters is a bit split on this. It's gone quite quiet. One note on Twitter said the offer at the next election might be vote for the Tories of 2022 under Farage, or those of 2029 under Badenoch. And that's where I think there's a good attack line here from the Tory party. I think he does give them immediate authority. He may pull across more former Tories too, and that'd be helpful. There's a bit of a moment there in that press conference when my colleague Catherine Forster read out a tweet from Nadeem Zahawi back in 2015 when he said, "I'm not British-born, Nigel Farage. I'm as British as you are. Your comments are offensive and racist. I'll be frightened to live in a country run by you." Now, that was obviously dug out from 2015, as acknowledged by Nadeem Zahawi. And he said, all I would say to you is this: if you thought this man sitting next to me, Nigel Farage, had an issue with people of my colour or my background who would have come to this country, who've integrated, I wouldn't be sitting next to him, and he wouldn't be near me either. So he would say, well, I've moved on since 11 years ago, but there'll be lots of people going through his Twitter feed right now looking at those remarks about Reform UK, and it's, frankly, for him to answer.
I wonder if anybody cares about that. I seriously do wonder if anybody cared what somebody said on Twitter 11 years ago now. Certainly when that was put to Mr. Zahawi himself, he said, you know, so what, more or less. It's like this was 11 years ago. Politics, as you keep reminding me, is a brutal game.
It's a contact sport.
Yeah, people are constantly kind of putting the metaphorical stiletto.
He's got to defend those remarks or say, I've changed. Nigel Farage has changed. And back in 2015, Nigel Farage ran a different party. It was called UKIP. He now runs one called, then the Brexit Party happened, which you were part of, and now we have Reform UK. That's 3 parties ago. You can defend it, but I think he should be able to answer questions about it, and he did.
What I thought was quite telling is that repeatedly he said, I don't need to be doing this, and I could have easily and happily retired. He's obviously a man of wealth. Yeah. He doesn't need to be getting back into politics. It seems to be a choice. And he kept saying, our wonderful country is sick. You know, I'm here to tell you today the course the British people and Britain needs is reform. Britain needs Nigel Farage as Prime Minister. So he's gone from the latest convert, in many senses, to the most officious and the most enthusiastic of converts.
Well, he backs Brexit. He campaigned for it. He's one of those Boris Johnson acolytes. We've seen a lot of those come across. Nadine Dorries, Jonathan Gullis and others have come across to the Reform UK party. Is that a problem? Because the Boris wave, even as quoted by Keir Starmer last week, that was the legally arriving, nearly 1 million people arriving here legally in a year. But that could be fall to 0 this year, by the way, Martin, under current forecast. But so he's getting a lot of Boris Johnson acolytes. Again, how will Reform UK voters think? Will they think, oh, hang on, it's more of the same. It's a Tory party 2.0 in 2029. Is that what they want to see? I think they need to have some Labour defections to help balance that.
He was outspoken on Islamism. There is a sickness deep in the heart of our country. Is there not a teacher still hiding in Batley? Thank you personally for that, Mrs. Zahawi, because nobody seems to be talking about the Batley Grammar School teachers still,
100%.
In hiding. We should have nipped political Islam in the bud when they put a fatwa on an author all those years ago. We didn't. So, to be fair, he's coming to the table with teeth on that in a way that he wouldn't have been allowed to do so under the Conservatives.
And Martin, he's a great communicator. He does connect with people. I thought his speech was eloquent. It was a good speech. He can. I think, punch out of the kind of the bag for Nigel Farage, and I think, what's he been promised? A Tory MP said to me on the way here. I haven't had a chance to speak to him, but I think he might now run Richard Tice quite close to be the Chancellor in a reform government were that to happen.
Although he was very complimentary towards Richard Tice, he did intimate as well that he would like to work potentially with Danny Kruger in the department for preparing for government. I think you might be seeing Mr Kruger later on. It'd be great to try and get him on at some point, see what you've got to say.
on your show.
No pressure, mate. But it'd be good to see what somebody within the camp has to say.
That's not a department. It's getting ready for government.
Yeah, precisely.
I mean, that's where the hard yards are taking place behind the scenes, I think, for reform.
All right. Well, let's quickly read out the Conservatives' responses before we get into my favourite topic, Brexit. Conservative spokesman said in response to Mr Zahawi's defection, reform is fast becoming the party of has-been politicians looking for the next gravy train. The latest recruits used to say he'd be frightened to live in a country run by Nigel Farage, which shows the level of loyalty for sale. Now, back to Brexit. Catherine McBride, thank you very much for joining us today in Westminster. Social media was alight over the weekend, the so-called Farage clause being baked into potentially a deal Sir Keir Starmer is prepared to surrender, sign, beg your pardon, Freudian slip there, with Brussels. Tell us the specifics of this deal and tell us why you think it stinks.
Well, it's incredibly bad because they're taking us back into the EU's SPS area and other parts of the electricity program, their CBAM program, all of which will push up UK prices.
Yeah.
They're trying to pretend it's to lower our prices when it's in fact to lower the costs of our large supermarkets, who liked it when the taxpayer paid their bills, rather than them having to pay their own import costs.
So this is about food standards and things like that, right?
Well, yes.
So if we don't want to get involved in that, we've got to pay.
Yeah, but we're already able to import anything we want from the EU free of charge. But Starmer wants to send money to Brussels. Basically, he wants to get back in the club, and Ursula is clever enough to demand that he pay for it.
That sounds like associate membership.
Now that it's... Exactly. And now that it's obvious that Starmer is not going to be in the next government, even probably maybe next year, not be in the present government, then Ursula wants to tie them in and make sure we have to keep paying the EU, because all the EU is about is money. The EU is a layer of government on top of a layer of government. It has no real tax base other than taking money off people like us who are dumb enough to give it to them. So
the key point between this and what we already have, because let's face it, when we Brexited or when we didn't Brexit, as you may think, we were baked into all kinds of reciprocal deals. For example, we wanted to renegotiate on fishing. France could turn off the electricity because everything affects every part. But this is different and more ominous, you're saying, because not only would it do all of the above, but we have to pay to get out of it.
Well, yes, we have to pay it while we're there. And if Farage says, well, I'm not paying this because I won the election, we're going to have to compensate Europe. So they want a compensation clause in it, even though it's obvious now that Farage is most likely to win the next election.
Before Chris Hope gets in, I want to ask you one final question. Is this proof that we never really Brexited? We're still within the orbit of Brussels for them to wield this kind of power over us.
No, we did Brexit, but we need people like Kemi. We need the Conservatives who are still there to yell out, no, we have a deal, we're not paying this. Unfortunately, even Farage has not come out loud and clear and say, no, we left. 17.2 million people voted to leave the EU and only 9.7 people voted for Keir Starmer. And yet he's taking us back into the EU and making us pay for it.
Number 10 say the idea of a Farage clause is pure speculation, but they say that termination clauses are a standard practice in negotiating treaties, they say, and the accusation that it's not democratic is wrong. So is that what will happen here? There'll be a termination clause. Were a different party to win power, then the current deal ends or something.
Not in the trade deal. That's absolutely not true. The trade deal we've just done with America, the trade deal we've done with India, both done by the Labour Party, the trade deal we did with Australia and New Zealand and the CPTPP, have no costs involved and no clauses saying if you pull out of this, you owe us money. That's rubbish. They just made that up. I don't know who told you that, Chris, but it's not true.
And so
Number 10 said no termination, they are standard. Termination clauses are standard.
Well, so termination clauses are standard, but not costs.
Not
That's the
payments.
key point.
Well,
if you negotiate a deal, there is a clause, as we said. So you want to change fishing, we're going to change electricity, and so on and so forth. But in this particular instance, if we terminate that or any other greater part of the deal, there'll be a cost, and that's the key difference.
Well, one of the things that they'll probably try and hold on to is the fishing, which Keir Starmer just gave them for 12 years for nothing in return, which was an insanity. That's proof that this guy is not capable of running a government. We need to get that back. And if they've got a clause in that saying, sorry, this is ours forever, then we should be suing the Labour Party. The taxpayer in this country should start throwing their weight around. Watch what's happening in Iran. It's time for people to get up and say, no, we're not taking this anymore.
Nobody, of course, would say we should have an uprising like that, perhaps. I'm being told we probably should say. Catherine McBride, can you believe 10 years in June, it's going to be Brexit 10 years old? Next going to be back. And did we ever, finally, do you think we ever actually got Brexit done in the most efficient way? Is this proof we should have gone WTO? No deal.
I would have loved WTO, but at the same time, we did leave Northern Ireland behind. I'm not happy about that. And that's how they managed to tie us in. And with the SPS clauses, most of the fresh agricultural product that is sold from the UK to the EU goes across the Irish border, goes from Northern Ireland to Ireland, and they're both still in the single market for all intents and purposes.
All right.
There is absolutely no reason to sign this deal.
Okay,
Number 10's red lines, they do say we're not re-entering the single market or customs union. They're very clear on that, Martin.
OK. 10 years on, it will be June the 23rd. We're just getting started this year, I believe, on Brexit. I love the smell of Brexit, especially on a Monday. Thank you very much, Catherine McBride. Chris, absolutely beautiful. Now, it's time now for the Great British Giveaway. No, not Brexit, but your chance to win an incredible £85,000 in tax-free moolah. Here's how you could bag the lot.
There's just 3 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to make 2026 the year of yes. That's yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to making all of those dreams come true this year. What would you spend all of that cash on? 2026 could be the year you spend more time spending with an incredible £85,000 in your bank. Just make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 9th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Now, still to come, we'll have all the very latest in Iran as Donald Trump considers very strong options for American involvement in the Islamic Republic after more than 500 protesters are now reported dead. And also next, the government set to make a statement over sexualised deepfakes by X's AI bot Grok. But could they go further and announce a full ban on the social media platform in the UK that Donald Trump has called a Russia-style ban? That's next on GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back. Your time is 3:26 with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, Britain's favourite media regulator, Ofcom, has launched an investigation into Elon Musk's X to determine whether it has complied with its duties to protect people in the UK from content that could be illegal in the UK. Now, the Technology Secretary, Liz Kendall, will address MPs later in the Commons, we believe, in around about 35 minutes' time, over concerns surrounding X's use of artificial intelligence. Now, that means that potentially we could see an outright ban on the X platform in the United Kingdom. Well, GB News has been out asking the public if they'd welcome a ban on the social media platform.
Definitely not. I think Keir Starmer's overstretching himself. He should get on with getting the country back together and cost of living crisis and stop worrying about social media.
I think it's like we need to look at how social media is being used and being accessed by young people, how it's being accessed by businesses, how it's being used, like what images are being circulated on the internet.
If it's young children, well, I say young children, like teenagers, early year teenagers, just starting 13 sort of year olds upwards, I think it's bad for them to be seeing things like that.
I think banning it is an extreme measure. I personally would have no issue if it were banned.
So will the Labour Party go to ban X? Well, let's now speak with the Legislative Affairs Director of the Free Speech Union, Sam Armstrong. Sam, welcome to the show. Pleasure to have your company. Here we go again. The continued war of words between Elon Musk and the Labour Party now is teetering towards an outright ban. Surely not.
Well, it's always X. It's always the platforms where Keir Starmer's government gets the most criticism. And for me, at least, it seems like Elon Musk's original sin with this government was calling them out over years and years of inaction under both major political parties over the grooming gangs issue. And ever since he did that, the political establishment, the regulatory state, these bodies of people you've never heard of but have extraordinary levels of power, seem to have been out to get him. And to my mind, we can come back to the substantive issue, this is nothing more than a ruse by a government that doesn't like a social media platform to go after them and have it shut down. They have tried every means, and it's not just, of course, social media platforms. Many of the people around Keir Starmer tried to shut down GBNews, for example. And we know that there's a long history of this. Morgan McSweeney, the Prime Minister's own Chief of Staff, set up an organisation called the Centre for Countering Digital Hate, which has been so pro-censorious that the American government have now terminated the visa of its founder on the basis that they say his activities are a threat to the First Amendment right to free speech.
Now, Sam Armstrong, the thing that sticks in my craw is that other AI tools can also put people in bikinis. I know, because for my sins, I tried to get Keir Starmer put into a bikini by ChatGPT and by Google AI, both of which did it. So it's not just Grok that does this, but particularly and uniquely, the Labour Party is trying to sink its fangs into X. Am I being a conspiracy theorist by saying, actually, their problem isn't with the Grok AI, it's with Elon Musk himself, it's with X, because they're anti-Labour?
Isn't just them, of course. I went and had a look, and the Guardian newspaper used to love putting David Cameron in swimsuits in its cartoons that it printed in its newspaper. Are we saying that the editor of the Guardian newspaper is to be arrested for some kind of deep fake pornography attack on David Cameron for pointing out the fact that he used to like taking long summer holidays? It's absurd. I had to go and made it do a picture of me in my swimwear. I asked it if it would give me a six-pack. I asked it if it would make me a little bit better looking. It did. It did a marvellous job. I'm delighted. And look, here's the thing, of course. Artists have been painting people in, frankly, more than just swimwear, in all states of undress, for centuries. Grok, like anything, is a tool. You can use a tool for good, you can use it for bad. Are we going to ban people from owning a car because if you choose to, you can drive a car into a crowd of people? No, we put responsibility on human beings and then we allow them to do good things or bad things with the tools, and then when they do bad things, we go after them. What we don't do is shut down platforms or say, no, this fantastic new tool that's going to change the entire way that the world works, we're going to shut it down because we don't like what some people may or may not have been doing with it.
Sam Armstrong, we have to leave it there. A serious conversation about politics. I had no idea we'll veer into you in a mankini. What a beautiful world we live in. Sam Armstrong, mind how you go. I'll see you again on the channel in the future. Thank you very much. Chris, a quick conversation with you about the politics. I still think that governments, when they move towards social media platforms, are completely reading the room wrong. It's not what we do in a free society.
What they're worried about is children. That's where it was not about people so much as Sam Armstrong was saying, but people, of course, are involved in this. What they say is a welcome news, this investigation by Ofcom. They've got a backroom power, they say a backstop power to apply to the courts, and if that's deemed necessary, the government will give Ofcom its full support. What they say is contents made by Grok, which is utterly vile, unlawful and damages lives. Interesting to hear what you say, I think, Martin, about you've got different platforms creating the images you're describing, so why not go after them too? And that's where government's argument slightly falls down. Banning the whole thing, all of X, all of Twitter, is clearly extreme. But why not just simply tackle these AI bots and say you can't use children in your images? That would probably be the easy way of doing it.
Governments don't understand tech. And I put it to you, Liz Kendall understands tech about as much as I understand astrophysics. And it's this, you can't ban things. David Cameron tried it with pornography. They've all tried over the years to ban. Kids are smarter than any government minister. They'll get around it in 5 minutes flat. And you create a Streisand effect, a forbidden fruit. The far more sensible thing to do is to talk to children about the implications, the ramifications, and to teach responsible consumption rather than trying to ban. Bans never work. Just my 2 pennies work. Thank you very much, Chris Hope. Always a pleasure to have you in the studio. See more of you later in the show. Loads more still to come between now 4 p.m, including all the latest in Iran, as Donald Trump considers very strong options for American involvement in the failing Islamic Republic. After more than 500 protesters, at least, are now reported to be dead. But first, it's time for your latest news headlines with Katie Bowen.
Good
afternoon, the headlines at 3:33. Former Chancellor Nadeem Zahawi has defected to Reform UK, warning Britain is drinking at the last chance saloon. He says the country needs Farage as Prime Minister to escape what he called a dark and dangerous chapter. The Conservatives branded Zahawi as a has-been, while Labour described him as a discredited politician. The media watchdog has launched a formal probe into X over claims its AI tool Grok is generating illegal sexual images of women and children. Ofcom says it's fast-tracking the investigation under the Online Safety Act, warning it has the power to issue huge fines or even block X in the UK. Iran's death toll has passed 544 as protests turn into a direct challenge to the supreme leader's rule. The regime is tightening its grip with growing calls in Britain to ban Iran's Revolutionary Guard. In Washington, Donald Trump says Tehran has reached out to negotiate, but warns he hasn't ruled out military action.
We're watching it very closely. If they start killing people like they have in the past, I think they're going to get hit very hard by the United States.
Tens of thousands of homes across Sussex and Kent still have no running water after Storm Goretti, and a power failure forced a major incident. Schools, libraries and parts of a hospital have been shut, with tankers rolling in as MP Mike Martin tells South East Water to get a grip. Those are the headlines for now. More news at 4 o'clock.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello again, this is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Through much of this week, whilst it is going to be markedly milder than last week, there will be some unsettled weather around, some heavy rain and even some strong winds. Currently we have low pressure to the north of the UK, and this is doing two things. It's driving some strong winds across northern parts. It's also dragging in our air from the southwest, which is why those temperatures are up compared to recent days. As we go overnight, much of England and Wales largely dry, some clear spells allowing for a bit of mist, maybe some low cloud to develop later on in the night. A bit of rain across parts of Northern Ireland, Northern England and southern Scotland, then across northern parts of Scotland, while clearer skies allowing temperatures to drop here. So some frost, some icy patches to watch out for as well first thing tomorrow morning. As we go through tomorrow then, yes, a cold, frosty, icy start across parts of northern Scotland could cause some travel disruption. There is a warning out as there are likely to be some delays. Also across western parts, a few showers starting to push their way in. Across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland, quite cloudy, quite damp outbreaks of rain, similar across parts of northern northwestern England, even the far northwest of Wales. That's because there is a front that's edging its way in. Much of the rest of England and Wales starting the day largely dry, quite cloudy, could be some mist around, like I said, but quite quickly we're going to see rain pushing into southern counties, and that's because of a waving frontal system that's going to edge its way a little bit further north and east as we go through the day, and then that front towards the northwest of the UK will kind of join up with it, so a bit of rain in a fair few places, and it could be a little bit heavy for some. Towards the northwest we get something a bit drier, brighter following in later, but also some cooler air, so temperatures here lower than today, but towards the south they're looking similar. Then as we go later on, that rain continues across some parts of the southeast, eventually clearing away. Further north and west we have drier, clearer weather taking us into a chilly start on Wednesday for many of us. Watch out for Thursday, could be some unsettled weather indeed.
Thank you, Britain, for helping us reach 10 million followers across our social media platforms. We're truly honoured to have your trust, one follower at a time.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the A92 Tay Road Bridge, double-deck vehicles are barred and there is a 30 miles per hour restriction because of high winds. On the A489 in both directions between Machynlleth and Semis Road, there is an accident causing disruption. In Northamptonshire, the A45 eastbound between the A5076 Northampton East and the A509 North Road has a crash with one of two lanes closed and delays of around 10 minutes. And on the trains, Cross Country has disruption between Edinburgh and Newcastle. And Gatwick Express has delays between Purley and Gatwick Airport. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Your time is 3:38 with me here, Martin Daubney on GB News. Now, at least 500 are feared to be dead after huge protests in Iran over the weekend escalated, and Tehran is warning Washington that it will retaliate against any attacks.
We're watching it very closely. If they start killing people like they have in the past, I think they're going to get hit very hard by the United States.
Well, President Trump now says that Iranian leaders have contacted the US to negotiate as he considers taking military action. Meanwhile, the US joins calls for Downing Street to prescribe Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, something Nigel Farage has been advocating for years. Well, let's now speak with the defence and security expert, Philip Ingram. Philip, welcome to the show. It's always a pleasure to have your company. Safe to say it's all kicking off in Iran. Do you think the direction of travel now is the downfall, the toppling of the Ayatollah?
Good afternoon. Well, it seems that way, and yes, it is all kicking off in Iran. But as ever, Iran has cut off access to the internet, so we're getting sporadic news out, and it's very easy for that to be sensationalized rather than reflecting what's going on across the country. There are key elements that haven't happened yet that would suggest that we're seeing a collapse in the regime, and that's significant numbers of the security forces, the army, the police, and others changing sides to the protesters. And over the past 17, 20 years, there have been a number of points where it's come close to the regime collapsing, but the regime has clamped down very hard indeed. A key element here is what Donald Trump is going to do to try and stick with that promise that he made, not to allow the regime to kill lots of Iranian civilians.
Well, Philip Ingram, we've already seen Donald Trump, of course, pound nuclear facilities within Iran. Do you think now we could be looking towards some kind of spectre, some kind of repetition of boots on the ground, an Iraq-style invasion?
There's no chance of boots on the ground in Iran. Even Donald Trump's not that daft. We would be fixed there for years, and it wouldn't work very well indeed. And there's even less chance of the UK getting involved. Historically, the UK and Iran are not good bedfellows. But there's nothing to stop Donald Trump taking a similar action to he did against the Iranian nuclear facilities. He's got the air power that has moved on into the region. He's got the capability that's there to topple the heads of the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps, and it's the IRGC that are propping up the Ayatollah and the Ayatollah's regime. If they get taken out, then the regular army and the regular government will be in a position where they might change their mind and go for a formal regime change.
Now, Philip, this matters for Britain because Iran is the head of the snake of some of the most virulent and grotesque Islamic extremism on the planet. Hamas, Hezbollah, all funded by the Ayatollah's regime, pumped with Iranian oil. If the Ayatollah were to be taken out, and could that potentially mean for Britain more calm seas, less Iranian influence on British soil?
Well, calm seas in the longer term, yes. In the shorter term, it's likely to create and stimulate a greater number of potential actions through instability in the different groupings that are out there, because they will have lost their direction. They will want to find their own way. They will want to do something to say that they're still around. And this is where there's a very careful balancing point here. But the fall of the regime would be no bad thing from a long-term perspective, not just for the UK, not just for the region, but for the rest of the world, because Iran is at the centre of a lot of the terror activity that is going on across the globe at the moment. And of course, it's a key supporter for Vladimir Putin. This would be yet another country that's supporting Vladimir Putin's illegal invasion into Ukraine, falling and collapsing completely. He's already lost Venezuela. If he loses Iran, he's already lost Syria. If he loses Iran, then his influence is waning as well.
Is it time for that prescribing of the Iranian Guard as a terrorist organisation, dare I say the Muslim Brotherhood, on British soil, to just stamp out the influence of Islamic extremism in Britain?
100%, it should have been done a long time ago. The Muslim Brotherhood and the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps, especially the Quds Force. The Quds Force are the element that specifically goes around financing, training and equipping different terror organizations, whether it be the Houthis, whether it be Hamas, whether it be Hezbollah, whether it be different groupings inside Iraq, or whether it be ad hoc groupings that are almost certainly infiltrated through Europe and almost certainly in the United Kingdom, and will be stirring up a lot of the trouble that there is around the different demonstrations, the pro-Palestinian demonstrations we've seen. Iran is behind a lot of that, and the people that are demonstrating don't realise they're being manipulated by the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps.
Philip, one final question, if I could. Of course, before the Islamic Revolution in 1979, Iran was a prosperous, democratic, beautiful nation. It looked like the Mediterranean of the Middle East. Women were free to wear bikinis. Businessmen were free to wear to make profit under capitalist regimes. Do you think this could see the return if the Ayatollah is disposed to a more moderate power in the Middle East, in Iran, and that surely is only a good thing for the rest of the planet?
Well, if it did see that, that would be fantastic. And I know the Shah of Iran is waiting with bated breath to come back in again. Of course, it would be up to the Iranian people what they want. The current Iranian government would try and take some form of control. And what we wouldn't want to see is an even more hardline Islamic State, or one that oppresses its people even more. And this is the very difficult balancing act that there is whenever you're seeing the regime in a country topple. In an ideal world, yes, we'll get back to pre-1979 days, whenever Iran was a secular contributor to the rest of the world. Let's hope we get back there.
OK, Philip Ingram, always a pleasure to have your company, a font of knowledge. Thank you. Happy New Year, by the way, belatedly. Hope to see much more of you in 2026. Thank you very much, Philip Ingram. Coming up next on the show, we'll discuss whether the Duchess of Sussex could return to Blighty for the first time in 4 years, along with her beloved husband. Now, meanwhile, we're in search of some holiday sun. Here is the forecast for some of the top European destinations.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, here's your latest holiday sun forecast brought to you by the Met Office. On Tuesday, we'll see some unsettled weather across the western Med with some snow across the hills further east. So confirmation then of some outbreaks of rain on Tuesday across the Canaries, Madeira, parts of western Spain and Portugal. Mostly fine, as I say, across the central part of the Med there, certainly for Italy, 1 or 2 showers and some bright spells too, but a risk of snow certainly across the hills of Turkey. As for the coming few days, well, things generally quieten down, but we'll see further rain at times across western parts.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We can allow.
Stop.
We can allow.
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday from 8 p.m.
What I've discovered is that a comet that was observed by the Chinese in 5 BC, I put together the information from their observation to come up with an orbit that would take this particular comet very, very close to the Earth. And as it passed the Earth, probably about the distance to the moon, a position on the rotating Earth would have seen that comet pause for a period of hours over a location. We have the same thing now with the geosynchronous satellite. If you stand at the equator, there are geosynchronous satellites that stay over your head 24/7. This comet was so close to the Earth that it would have had the brightness of like a first quarter or full moon. So it would have been clearly visible in the daylight.
So it would have been easy for them to follow. And how quickly would they have had to have travelled? Could they have travelled fast enough to keep up with it?
Well, it would have been a direction. So it turns out it takes 2 or 3 hours to walk from Jerusalem to Bethlehem. It's a relatively short distance. And that's the period of time where it behaved like this for those few hours. So there was the time available. Now, of course, their trip from the east, it would have taken many weeks. And the Chinese said the comet was visible in the constellation Capricorn for more than 70 days. And it's that appearance in one constellation for an extended period. Pilots know this. If you see an object in the sky while you're flying a plane and it's not moving left, right, or up, down, it's actually on a collision course, or nearly so, with you. So the comet was heading more or less directly towards the Earth until, at least in my theory, they arrived in Jerusalem and walked that distance from Jerusalem to Bethlehem.
GB News, the People's Channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 10 to 4. You've made Martin Daubney here on GB News. Now, Meghan, the beloved Duchess of Sussex, could be heading back to Blighty this summer for the Invictus Games celebrations. That'll be her first visit to British soil since 2022. Now, her return is reportedly dependent on whether the Sussexers are granted enhanced security protection. And the prospect has sparked furious reactions online with heated debates over security, costs, and whether anyone really cares. Let's now speak to somebody who really does care. It's GB News' royal correspondent, Cameron Walker. Cameron, welcome to the show. Meghan, she's back.
Well, possibly, Martin, yes, and care might be a stretch, but of course it is my job. But Meghan, as you can see on the front page of The Sun this morning, potentially is coming back to the UK, as you said, the first time since the Queen's funeral in 2022. It's all speculation, really, but we do know for a fact that there will be an Invictus Games countdown this summer in Birmingham, marking a year until the Invictus Games comes to Birmingham in 2027. Now, Prince Harry definitely going to be attending that one. The speculation is whether Meghan is going to be joining her husband, because she has supported her husband throughout the Invictus Games journey in several different countries. But the sticking point for Harry and his team is this security issue. Harry has said on a number of occasions on the record that he doesn't feel safe bringing either Meghan or the two children to the United Kingdom. And as we speak, a review is being carried out by the Home Office and security services here into the United Kingdom into the level of security or the level of threat against both Harry, Meghan and the children if they were to come here to the United Kingdom. Once that review is complete, its findings are going to be given to RAVEC, which is the Royal and VIP Executive Committee. It's a Home Office committee that both the Home Secretary, senior police officers, security figures and Buckingham Palace staff sit on, and they will decide whether Harry and Meghan's security will be reinstated to what it was when they were working members of the royal family at British taxpayers' expense, i.e. 24-hour armed police protection when they're here in the United Kingdom with outriders and all the rest of it. If, and it is a big if the security is reinstated, I think it is highly likely that Meghan will return to the UK. But Meghan is the least popular member of the royal family with the British public, apart from Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. So a very, very low bar indeed. I don't see herself being put into a situation, or her putting herself into a situation, where she is going to be near actual British people, actual members of the public. If she does come, don't expect walkabouts, because I can't imagine she'll want to be booed, if indeed she is booed. I suspect it will be very controlled, very media-friendly. Yes, there'll be cameras, but I don't see there'll be any reason or any opportunity for members of the public to get incredibly close to Meghan. So we'll have to wait and see. As I said, nothing's been confirmed. It's a lot of speculation, and there's to be frank, Martin, a lot of what-ifs when it comes to this security situation. And if it is reinstated, British taxpayers, of course, going to be paying for it.
Yeah, I think the only safe way to get Meghan in and out of the country where she won't meet the public and won't get booed would be to airlift her. Airlift her in, airlift her out, with no chance of meeting her whatsoever. It probably won't go ahead, Cameron Walker, but look, it's a fantastic story to talk over. GB News Royal Correspondent Cameron Walker, thank you very, very much for joining us. Absolute pleasure, as always. Now, coming up, we'll be discussing the 1 million strong petition. Do you remember it? It started last year, demanding an immediate general election over the huge anger, the visceral anger at the Labour government. Well, today, there will be a 3-hour debate in Parliament. Should there be an immediate general election? We'll be live from Parliament as that happens, and we'll be joined by politicians and commentators to discuss this prospect. And here's the point. As well as today's debate in Parliament, could this be the beginning, the end of Starmerism? Andy Burnham could be getting a safe seat. The May elections expecting a Labour Party pounding. Is today the first firing shot of the end of Sir Keir Starmer? That's next with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News. First, though, here's your weather with Alex Burkill.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again, this is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Through much of this week, whilst it is going to be markedly milder than last week, there will be some unsettled weather around, some heavy rain and even some strong winds. Currently we have low pressure to the north of the UK, and this is doing two things. It's driving some strong winds across northern parts. It's also dragging in our air from the southwest, which is why those temperatures are up compared to recent days. As we go overnight, much of England and Wales largely dry, some clear spells allowing for a bit of mist, maybe some low cloud to develop later on in the night. A bit of rain across parts of Northern Ireland, Northern England and southern Scotland, then across northern parts of Scotland, while clearer skies allowing temperatures to drop here. So some frost, some icy patches to watch out for as well first thing tomorrow morning. As we go through tomorrow then, yes, a cold, frosty, icy start across parts of northern Scotland could cause some travel disruption. There is a warning out as there are likely to be some delays. Also across western parts, a few showers starting to push their way in. Across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland, quite cloudy, quite damp outbreaks of rain, similar across parts of northern northwestern England, even the far northwest of Wales. That's because there is a front that's edging its way in. Much of the rest of England and Wales starting the day largely dry, quite cloudy, could be some mist around, like I said, but quite quickly we're going to see rain pushing into southern counties, and that's because of a waving frontal system that's going to edge its way a little bit further north and east as we go through the day, and then that front towards the northwest of the UK will kind of join up with it, so a bit of rain in a fair few places, and it could be a little bit heavy for some. Towards the northwest we get something a bit drier, brighter following in later, but also some cooler air, so temperatures here lower than today, but towards the south they're looking similar. Then as we go later on, that rain continues across some parts of the southeast, eventually clearing away. Further north and west we have drier, clearer weather taking us into a chilly start on Wednesday for many of us. Watch out for Thursday, could be some unsettled weather indeed.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you to our global community for watching and listening to GB News. We're not only the #1 news channel in Britain, we're chosen by you around the world.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Take extra care on the A9 Kessock Bridge, where high winds are making conditions tricky. There is an accident on the A489 in both directions on the Machynlleth to Chemays Road. On the M5 northbound, the exit slip at junction 21 has a broken down vehicle with lane closures. Elsewhere, traffic is building on the A45 eastbound between the A5076 at Northampton East and the A509 North Road after a crash with one lane closed. And on the trains, cross-country is disrupted between Edinburgh and Newcastle, and Gatwick Express is delayed between Purley and Gatwick Airport. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
There's just 3 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to make 2026 the year of yes. That's yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to making all of those dreams come true this year. Just make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Very good afternoon to you and a happy Monday. It's 4 p.m. and welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting live across the UK, all the very latest news, debate and analysis all the way through until 6 p.m. We've got a cracking 2 hours of politics ahead, and here's what's coming up on today's show.
So it is time for another glorious revolution to get us back to a fully sovereign parliament, and where the government really is the government. For that, my friends, Britain needs reform.
The former Conservative Chancellor Nadhim Zahawi there saying the country needs reform. Today he became the latest and the biggest name Conservative to defect to Nigel Farage's Reform UK. The Tories have brutally blasted him as a has-been who apparently was shamelessly begging for a peerage. But with his vast experience of government, is Zahawi precisely what Reform UK needs to be ready to govern the nation? And in its ongoing war of words against Elon Musk, the Labour Party has today that it might ban X as Ofcom, the nation's regulator, launched a probe into its Grok AI app that puts women and children in bikinis, and also Sir Keir Starmer. Is this a sensible precaution? There is that debate live in Parliament. A sensible precaution to keep children and women safe, or, as Donald Trump claims, a lurch towards a Russia-style ban will be live from Parliament.
It's fantastic news, isn't it? And of course, every case is a tragedy, and we do an amazing job supporting the families in those moments, and we solve 95% of those cases.
Yes, the Met Chief Sir Mark Rowley and Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London, have today claimed that homicides in London are down by 11%. But is London really safer under Labour's Mayor? Well, GB News has done a deeper dive into the data, and it paints a very different picture to that of Sir Sadiq. I'll be joined by Reform's mayoral hopeful Layla Cunningham, who Khan blasted for spreading distortions and untruths about London being in the grip of a crime wave.
Our country has voted decisively for change, for national renewal.
Should there be an immediate general election? Well, that was the question posed in a petition that amassed over 1 million signatures, and in around about 30 minutes' time, a 3-hour debate will kick off in Parliament on that very topic. We'll be there for you live and asking the big question, is this the beginning of the end of Sir Keir Starmer? And as Donald Trump considers very strong options for American involvement in Iran, the Islamic Republic warns that any attack will wreak retaliation after more than 500 protesters are now reported dead as unrest in Iran spirals. One of those killed included a 23-year-old student. Anti-regime protests shot in the back of the head and buried by the roadside. We'll have all the latest throughout the rest of this hour, and that is a corking show. Well, the show may only be Monday, but we've got a cracking ton of politics for you today. In a short while's time, we'll be in Parliament for two debates in the Commons. The first one, should there be an immediate general election? 1 million people say yes. Secondly, will the Labour Party really go towards banning X in Britain? If that happens, there'll be a huge tech war between America and the United States. And finally, in the Lords, the third and final reading of the Chagos Bill. Might there still be hope for the Chagosians? That's all coming on today's show. Get into GBNews.com/your say is the way to do so. Or use the QR code on the screens now if you insist. But now it's time for your headlines. Here's Katie Bowen.
Martin, thank you and good afternoon. The headlines at 4:03. Former Conservative Chancellor Nadhim Zahawi has defected to Reform UK, declaring Britain is drinking at the last chance saloon. Standing alongside Nigel Farage in London, Mr Zahawi said the country really does need Nigel Farage as Prime Minister to pull it back from what he called a dark and dangerous chapter. Mr Farage hailed the move as proof that Reform UK is not a one-man band. Well, the Conservative Party has hit back, calling Mr Zahawi a has-been, while Labour Party chair Anna Turley described him as a discredited politician. Here's what Mr Zahawi had to say.
Even if you don't yet realise that Britain needs reform, you know in your heart of hearts that our wonderful country is sick. How many of you at home have thought to yourselves that nothing works today? I know I have. And I have it a damn sight easier than most people. That is why I'm standing here today as the newest member of Reform UK.
Elsewhere today, Britain's media regulator has launched a formal investigation into X over claims its AI tool Grok is being used to generate sexualised images of women and children. Ofcom says it gave the company a deadline to explain how it's protecting UK users and has now fast-tracked a probe into whether it's breaking the Online Safety Act. The watchdog is examining whether illegal content is being blocked, removed quickly and kept away from children, including whether X has proper age checks in place. Ofcom warns it has the power to issue huge fines or, in the most serious cases, even push for X to be blocked in the UK. Well, ahead of Liz Kendall addressing the Commons shortly, Business Secretary Peter Kyle says what he's seen and heard about it is disgusting and clearly unlawful and expects it to be dealt with.
Ofcom have all the powers to enforce the law. Now, the law dictates that no hateful or illegal content goes online onto social media platforms. Ofcom have asked X to provide information. They provided it. Ofcom are now doing an expedited investigation into whether they have stepped outside of the law or not. If they have, then this government expects the independent regulator and enforcement agency to enforce the law to the full extent of the law.
To the Middle East, where Iran is entering a third week of unrest with a rising death toll and the regime tightening its grip on nationwide protests. Human rights groups say at least 544 people have been killed and more than 10,000 arrested as protests harden into open defiance of the supreme leader. From Washington, President Donald Trump says Iran wants to negotiate, but warns he hasn't ruled out military action, with the White House now weighing what it calls very strong options.
We're watching it very closely. If they start killing people like they have in the past, I think they're going to get hit very hard by the United States.
Well, inside Iran, an internet blackout continues, cutting off the outside world as state TV insists the streets are calm. But on the ground, activists say the crackdown is intensifying, with arrests, disappearances and deadly force still being used. London's murder rate has fallen to its lowest level in more than a decade, according to new figures from the Metropolitan Police. 97 homicides were recorded last year, giving London a lower murder rate than New York, Berlin or Milan. And teenage killings have dropped to their lowest level since 2012. Police Chief Sir Mark Rowley says targeted operations against gangs and knife carriers are shattering fewer families, calling it the product of amazing police work. But City Hall and opposition figures are still clashing over whether Londoners actually feel safer. And tens of thousands of people across Sussex and Kent are starting the week without running water after Kent County Council declared a major incident. South East Water blames Storm Goretti, freezing weather and a power failure at a pumping station, with 14 postcodes still dry around East Grinstead, Frant and Tunbridge Wells. Schools, libraries and even parts of the local hospital have been forced to shut, with bottled water being handed out and tankers sent in to keep essential services running. Local MP Mike Martin says the situation is bizarre, warning the water company must now get a grip. Those are your latest GB News headlines. Now a quick look at the markets.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Here's a quick look at those markets. The pound will buy you $1.3471 and €1.1538. The price of gold is £3,432.99 per ounce. And the FTSE 100 is at 10,142 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
OK, now today's top story, the former Conservative Chancellor Nadhim Zahawi announced an extraordinary and surprise defection today to Nigel Farage's Reform UK earlier on, insisting that Britain needs reform whilst taking aim at his former party, who he claimed made the country less competitive and less prosperous. Well, I'm joined in the studio by GB News' political editor Chris Hope and also by the Conservative Member of Parliament for Solihull West and Shirley, and that is Neil Shastri-Hurst. Gentlemen, welcome to the studio. Chris, let's start with you. A lot of eyebrows were raised over this defection. Certainly it's the biggest name so far, the parliamentarian with the highest standing in office, former Chancellor, the Vaccines Minister. But also there's been, I've got to say, a high level of acidity, a big reaction from the Conservative Party, totally torching their former man.
It's difficult, I think, for Nigel Farage. He needs, on the one hand, experience of government, of running things. He's promising a revolution. He's promising to elect virtually all MPs who will be elected for Reform UK, if the polls are right, will never have run anything in government before, unless he can hire or find people who have done it in the past. That means he risks damaging the Reform brand. Now, he's got so far 20 or so former Tory MPs. A lot of them, I think a good half dozen there, supporters of Boris Johnson, but they've been kind of backbenchers. Well, Nadine Dorries was Culture Secretary, I suppose, under Boris Johnson, but not really senior. Now, that changes today with Nadhim Zahawi, a former Chancellor, a former Education Secretary, a senior Minister of State in other departments. He brings authority, he brings, I can get things done, he brings credibility to a new party. He also brings potential embarrassment for Nigel Farage, because Nigel Farage keeps saying over and over again, we're not the Tories, we're different, that failure was not my failure. Well, hang on, it was Nadhim Zahawi's failure. He was in charge for large parts of that time when the Tories were in power. So he almost neuters the attack line on they're all the same as each other. And I saw on social media earlier someone saying the offer might be in the next election in 2029, vote Kevin Badenoch for the future Conservatives, vote Nigel Farage for 2022 era Conservatives, looking backwards. And that's a problem he's got, I think.
They've certainly had their fallouts in the past, historical tweets being exhumed, as is the norm, one of which was from our own colleague Catherine Forster. Mr Zahawi called Nigel Farage racist in the past. He would create a country I don't want to live in. Today, they were very convivial about that. They kind of brushed it off. Who cares what we said 11 years ago? That's politics. Nigel Farage, meanwhile, saying that Nadhim Zahawi himself was just climbing the greasy pole of politics and only in it for himself. Putting that to one side, today they seem very convivial. They seem to be very of the mindset that together they must be. And Mr Zahawi saying that our wonderful country is sick and needs change.
Martin, I'm sure you said some inopportune words against Neil Shastri-Hurst when you fought him for a by-election. I mean, that's all been forgotten.
That was my worst political performance of all time. I was beaten by the better man. I'm going to bring you in on that point. Let's talk about this defection today. It has to be said, of all the Conservative defections so far, the most chagrin, the most bile, the most acid has been reserved for Nadhim Zahawi. Why?
Look, I'm disappointed Nadhim's made this decision. I know him well. I think he's a good man. I don't agree with his diagnosis of the issues that are facing this country and the reasons for going reform. I think that's the wrong decision to make. And I do think, Chris has made some very valid points. What does this say about reform? If they can't be cultivating their own brand, they are leaning back on previous era Conservative ministers to deliver their agenda. That suggests that they don't have those new ideas for the country that I think we are developing as the Conservative Party, looking forward, looking modern, having a modern direction of conservatism in this country. And I think that's the right direction. I think this is harking back to a bygone era, which doesn't actually serve the reform movement any good whatsoever.
Do you think Nadhim Zahawi is a has-been? Do you think he's shameless? That's what the Conservative Party have said today. It's a bit below the belt.
Look, they're not words I would use, but what I would say is Nadhim's been very critical of reform in the past. He's been very critical of Nigel Farage in the past. So there are questions to be raised as how he's had a complete volte-face in terms of his views of Mr Farage and how Mr Farage has had a completely different assessment of Nadhim at this point in time. There are certain issues of which they've got fundamental differences of opinion. Take vaccines, for example, and the comments that were made at the Reform Conference, which would fly entirely in the face of what Nadhim did when he was Vaccines Minister.
But even he himself said that was by a fringe contributor. There's nothing through the policy and brushed that off. But can I ask you one other question? That you say it's a sad indictment on the Reform Party, but we have here a former Chancellor, a former Minister, who said he let his membership of the Conservative Party elapse in December. And on reflecting, he said the country faces a national emergency which the Conservatives cannot sort out on Islamism, on uncontrolled immigration, on the slow death of the United Kingdom. That is a damning indictment on your party, is it not?
Yeah, and I don't agree with his assessment that the Conservative Party are not the party to deal with those difficult issues. Look, it's not unusual for former parliamentarians to lapse their membership after they've ceased to be a member of Parliament. But the question that's open to Nadhim is, if he felt so strongly on these issues, why was he not more vocal about them, and why did he not do more about when he had the opportunity in government?
I do think he's a great hire, by the way, on communication grounds. He talks really, really well. He's a very, very good politician. He's an entrepreneur. He arrived here from Iraq. He loves this country. He's got a huge story to tell. I had thought he was leaving politics behind him, actually. So now he's back. It's good. But I think there are question marks for both Farage and for him personally. But I think, on balance, it's a good hire by Farage.
OK, let's move on to another topic today. Neil Shastri-Hurst, knife crime is back, or homicide back in the news today. Sadiq Khan lauding an 11% drop in homicides in London. But, of course, other crime is rampant, particularly knife crime. You're holding a 10-minute tomorrow, understand, on knife crime. Tell us about that.
Yes, so I've got the Emergency Life-Saving Skills Schools Bill that is coming to Parliament tomorrow. It's one of those bills you never wish you would have to bring, but it's about ensuring that children, through the education system, are mandated to learn life-saving skills around stop the bleeding, how to raise care for emergencies and CPR training, and it's to deal with the knife crime issues that we're seeing, unfortunately, being endemic in parts of the country, but also response to terrorist attacks. We saw a lot of this came out of Citizen Aid's work following the Manchester arena bombings.
As you said, it's a terrible, terrible indictment that we even need that kind of training in schools. Nevertheless, that's modern Britain. Finally, Chris Hope, Chagos Islands back in the news again. And reading today, the final one, I believe, in the Laws. Tell us about it.
That's right. There are four attempts here by the Laws to water down what's been discussed about the Chagos Islands. The vote debate has started already. We may be able to see some footage on screen now of the Lords debating this. It votes at 6 p.m, 7 p.m. tonight. We're seeing there some footage there that looks like the former Brexit Minister, Lord Callanan, speaking now. So this is the Tories speaking there. No more payments to Mauritius if the military base in Diego Garcia is inoperable. The referendum for the Chagosians on resettlement, their trust fund. Publication of the true cost of treaty, tens of billions of our taxpayers' money being handed directly to Mauritius as part of this deal, which many are now questioning given what's going on with Donald Trump and Greenland and elsewhere and Venezuela. And finally, Parliament have a veto if spending under treaty exceeds published estimates. So this is the last twitching of this story, this attempt here by Piers to try and stop this deal. There could even be a kill motion posted later by Piers. That would stop the deal stone dead. I think they were hoping, there's some intervention by Donald Trump. That never came. There's Jagosians who've been in your studio. I know you've been supporting their campaign for months now, Martin. This looks like the end of the road for them.
OK, let's see what happens. We'll bring you that later in the show, of course. Chris Oak, thank you very much. And special thanks coming to the studio today, Conservative MP for Solihull West and Shirley, Neil Shastry-Hurst. Thank you, sir, for your company. Absolute pleasure. Now, moving on, Britain's pubs could be about to get that final lifeline after mounting pressure from her own MPs. The Chancellor Rachel Reeves understood to be finally finalising plans to offer business rate relief to the venues facing the biggest increases in business rates this year. Now, an announcement is expected in the coming days. But is it too little, too late? Well, let's cross over now to Gloucestershire, where GB News' South England reporter Isabel Fekulak has been meeting with publicans in the Boozer.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Martin. I'm here in a lovely pub in the Cotswolds. The building's been here since the 1600s. About a year ago, the pub here was closed until a new landlord took it over just a couple of months after. And I'm joined now by the landlord, Luke Briffett. Hello, thank you for coming on today. When you heard that Rachel Reeves was going to climb down on these tax hikes and reduce the business rates, how did it feel?
Well, as a relief. I mean, it was hard enough for pubs already when we took over. And then the news came in November about the budget, and that seemed like it was it. For many pub owners, we were worried that was the end of the line. For those that have been in there for decades, and especially for us, we've just got in here, it seemed ridiculous that that would be the end of it because of the budget. So now they're going back on it. It's fantastic. It's good news, but it's not the end. We've got a long road ahead of us, and they ultimately need to make some changes that previous governments should have made as well, so we can actually thrive as an industry rather than just survive.
What changes would you like to see then going forward to help relieve you guys even more?
There's many, a long list. Ultimately, when pubs take money on a pint, we actually only take a few pence. When you take into effect wage bills, utilities, VAT, all these different things, the business rates going up massively on top of that, that was just the final straw. But really, they need to look at everything that we have to pay for, because it's not an industry that we can actually make money in anymore, and I'm glad that they have gone back on the business rates increase, but there's a lot more work that needs to be done, definitely.
And before they've kind of gone back and said that they're going to make this partial U-turn on the tax rates, how are you going to be impacted? Loads of pubs across the country were looking at closure. What was going to be the case for you here?
I mean, it was going to be the same for us, really, ultimately. It doesn't matter how long it would take. That's what was going to happen to every single pub. There was one pub closing every single day in 2025, or near enough, and it doesn't matter how long you last. At some point, it was going to be the end for every single pub, and as a new business, we would likely have lasted a lot less than others. So it was scary, but it's now a good relief that she has gone back on her word, and hopefully we can make some positive change.
Well, yeah, that's the hope, and thank you for coming on today. I wish you all the best. So here we have a pub that might be a bit relieved from this announcement we're waiting for from Rachel Reeves, but like we've heard here, it might be too little too late. A lot more work to be done to save the British pubs.
Thank you, Isabel. Getting severe job envy, spending all your time in pubs at the moment. Thank you very much, there, for joining us live from Gloucestershire. Now, in response to those reports of a U-turn, the House of Commons leader, Sir Alan Campbell, has told GB News this. The Prime Minister has been listening, and he's actively looking at further measures to help pubs and the hospitality industry, whether these are in rural areas or in urban areas. Now, still to come, we'll be discussing this.
Now our country has voted decisively for change, for national renewal.
Should there be an immediate general election? Well, that was the question posed in a petition that amassed more than 1 million signatures, and MPs will be debating this matter shortly in the Commons for 3 hours. We'll be asking, is this the beginning of the end for Sir Keir Starmer? We'll be live from Parliament for that debate. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, Parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 4:25. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, very shortly, MPs are to hold a debate on a snap general election. Now, the debate, of course, was caused by a parliamentary petition that reached more than 1 million signatures signed by the British public amid frustration with the Labour government, including, of course, winter fuel payments and an inheritance tax raid on farmers. That debate kicks off in around about 5 minutes' time. Ahead of that, let's now speak with the political commentator who signed this very petition, and that is Lee Harris. Lee, welcome to the show. It's always a pleasure to have your company, and a belated Happy New Year to you. No doubt your new year will be much happier if this petition had some impact and if there were a general election called. Tell us, why did you sign it?
Absolutely, it would make it a nice start to the new year if we could go. But look, no one's under any illusion that this is going to immediately call a general election. I mean, I signed it. I mean, I think the public reflect exactly the mood of the moment. He's the most unpopular prime minister in history. I think he's even more unpopular than Maduro was at around 21%. Keir Starmer was on 18%. So he better sleep well at night. But this is, petitions are a legitimate expression from the public to show their disapproval in a very, very unpopular Labour government. I mean, Keir Starmer's leadership has been marred with, justified criticisms, with a failure to stop the boat, welfare reform. He failed to reduce welfare. He's failed very badly at growing the economy. The tax burden's still high, so people are still feeling extremely poor in their pockets, and I can completely understand why so many people, I think we got over 1 million signatures in the end on the petition, so it's going to spark a good debate, and it will keep media pressure on this Labour government, and hopefully we can see some change, but I don't think we're holding out much hope, Martin.
And Lee Harris, as you say, these petitions are advisory. There's a debate because it's a parliamentary obligation to debate them once they get over a certain amount. It won't precipitate in a general election this way, but might there be another way? We're seeing, for example, at the moment, Andy Burnham sniffing around for a safe seat in Bootle. We're seeing May elections incoming, which even the most optimistic Labour parliamentarian commentator is bracing for immense amounts of torture. Could this petition today perhaps be the first step in that final bell for Starmerism?
I think you might be right that Keir Starmer is not well liked, as we know, within the Labour Party, and we've seen that various MPs have been on manoeuvres. I mean, Andy Burnham has one more step to go than an actual MP because he has to become an MP first before he can do anything. But we have seen people thinking that Keir Starmer is weak enough for them to make a public move. And yes, I think it's an obvious thing to happen. These MPs are potentially going to lose their seat. There are some that have got very wafer-thin majorities. And it just seems like every day at the moment there's just a new scandal or something that the public are extremely unhappy about. We've got cancelling elections, scrapping jury trials. The big one at the moment, which a lot of people are talking about, is Keir Starmer putting his full weight behind Ofcom to ban X. I mean, honestly, sometimes I think to myself, it can't get much worse. And then, of course, you wake up the next day and it can get much worse. Even I'm quite shocked at how badly this government has gone.
OK, Lee Harris, thank you very much for joining us on the show today. A pleasure to have your company, as ever. See you again soon. Let's get back to studio. Chris Hope. Lee Harris there, tempering his own enthusiasm, substantial enthusiasm, by the fact it won't really have any impact. It is a petition that amassed a certain amount of signatures, therefore it's duty-bound to be discussed. But on the broader picture,
yes,
there definitely do seem to be storm clouds gathering for Sir Keir Starmer and within his own ranks.
Yes, a petition signed by 1.3 million people gives you a vote in a debate in the House of Commons. It's a way, I think, of Parliament finding things to talk about that people want to talk about and letting off steam. 1.3 million signing it. I should say there are 48 million registered voters, so basically just 3% of voters supported this petition, so not a lot. 97% of people don't want an election immediately. I think people are tired of politics all the time. The next election will be in 2028, 2029. But yeah, there's concerns. I think the big test is May. I mean, May is local elections. May is elections in Wales and Scotland. That could do a lot to define the futures, really, both Kevin Badenoch and Sir Keir Starmer. And to a degree, Nigel Farage, pressure on him now to cut through, make that big commitment there to getting, maybe coming second in both Scotland and Wales, maybe winning them.
And it's really worth pointing out, to keep the pressure on, midnight Wednesday is the deadline. We find out then which local authorities, which council areas have cancelled those local elections, and much hay will be made of that by Reform UK,
rightly so,
by the Liberal Democrats, by the Greens, by all the parties that fancy a nibble against the big two.
And rightly so. I think it's 63 councils have until midnight Wednesday to say if they wanted to delay. The government is minded to agree to that delay. You will have millions of people not being allowed to vote in their councils or vote them out in May. Now, the government says they want to try and save money. Many of these councils are being wound up in a year or so's time, so rather than have the cost of having elections now, let them stay on for next year. That's what they say. But I do think many agree that democracy delayed is democracy denied, even if only for a year.
And that debate is starting any moment now. It'll be led by John Lamont MP, Scottish Conservative, and answering for the government will be not Sir Keir Starmer, but Labour Minister Anna Turley. So they'll knock things around for 3 hours. And just to be absolutely clear to people out there, Chris Hope, this will not precipitate in a general election.
This will not. It is it's an attempt, and I think the idea of backbench business debates, they are debated by a backbench business committee. If you sign, enough people sign it, 100,000, you get looked at for a vote of a debate in the House of Commons. Over 1 million almost certainly get it. It's a way of a pressure cooker, allowing voters to see what they care about being debated in the House of Commons, connecting Parliament to what voters care about. So I think it's a good thing it's happening, but yet again, it will not result in anything like an election. That will not happen.
OK, that debate should have been kicking off now. It's Parliament. They're late. They're probably having another croissant. A serious point will be there, live pictures when that does happen, and we'll be dipping in and dipping out of that debate as and when it rolls in. And we're also expecting a statement in Parliament later on this afternoon around the topic of the Labour Party potentially banning X over Grok AI. Half past five. But actually, is it more than that? Is this a war of words against Elon Musk? And the Labour Party takes a battering on X if they left the platform. Would it actually make any difference to them? All that to come in today's show, though. Thank you again, Chris Oak. First time now for your news headlines. And here's Katie Bowen.
Good afternoon. Your headlines at 4:32. Former Chancellor Nadeem Zahawi has defected to Reform UK, warning Britain is drinking at the last chance saloon. He says the country needs Farage as Prime Minister to escape what he called a dark and dangerous chapter. The Conservatives branded Zahawi a has-been, while Labour described him as a discredited politician. Ofcom says it's fast-tracking an investigation into X's AI tool, Grok, over claims the tool is generating illegal sexual images of women and children. The regulator is warning it has the power to issue huge fines or even block X in the UK. Protests are continuing to erupt in Iran. The death toll there has risen to 544. President Trump says he's still considering military action. The House of Lords are debating the Chagos Islands bill in the Lords this afternoon. Live pictures here of that debate. It would formalise the UK's agreement to transfer sovereignty of the islands to Mauritius. Labour insists the deal is the only way to adequately protect the Diego Garcia base from the influence of countries like China. And tens of thousands of homes across Sussex and Kent still have no running water after Storm Goretti, and a power failure forced a major incident. Schools, libraries and parts of a hospital have shut, with tankers rolling in as MP Mike Martin tells South East Water to get a grip. Those are the headlines for now. More news at 5 o'clock.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Hello again, this is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Through much of this week, whilst it is going to be markedly milder than last week, there will be some unsettled weather around, some heavy rain and even some strong winds. Currently we have low pressure to the north of the UK, and this is doing two things. It's driving some strong winds across northern parts. It's also dragging in our air from the southwest, which is why those temperatures are up compared to recent days. As we go overnight, much of England and Wales largely dry, some clear spells allowing for a bit of mist, maybe some low cloud to develop later on in the night. A bit of rain across parts of Northern Ireland, Northern England and southern Scotland, then across northern parts of Scotland, while clearer skies allowing temperatures to drop here. So some frost, some icy patches to watch out for as well first thing tomorrow morning. As we go through tomorrow then, yes, a cold, frosty, icy start across parts of northern Scotland could cause some travel disruption. There is a warning out, as there are likely to be some delays. Also across western parts, a few showers starting to push their way in. Across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland, quite cloudy, quite damp outbreaks of rain, similar across parts of northern northwestern England, even the far northwest of Wales. That's because there is a front that's edging its way in. Much of the rest of England and Wales starting the day largely dry, quite cloudy, could be some mist around, like I said, but quite quickly we're going to see rain pushing into southern counties, and that's because of a waving frontal system that's going to edge its way a little bit further north and east as we go through the day, and then that front towards the northwest of the UK will kind of join up with it, so a bit of rain in a fair few places, and it could be a little bit heavy for some. Towards the northwest we get something a bit drier, brighter following in later, but also some cooler air, so temperatures here lower than today, but towards the south they're looking similar. Then as we go later on, that rain continues across some parts of the southeast, eventually clearing away. Further north and west we have drier, clearer weather, taking us into a chilly start on Wednesday for many of us. Watch out for Thursday, could be some unsettled weather indeed.
Thank you, Britain, for helping us reach 10 million followers across social media. We are truly honoured to have your trust one follower at a time.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Use extra caution on the A9 Kessock Bridge, where high winds are affecting driving conditions. In Derbyshire, Northamptonshire's M1 northbound between junction 29A and junction 30 has a broken down vehicle causing delays. In Herefordshire, the M50 westbound between junction 3 and junction 4 has a vehicle fire, with one lane closed. In Kent, the A2 westbound is partially blocked after a road traffic collision, with one lane shut. And on the trains, cross-country services are disrupted between Edinburgh and Newcastle, while Gatwick Express trains face delays between Purley and Gatwick Airport. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. Time is 4:37. You're with me, Martin Daubney, here on GB News. Now, in the last few moments, the Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has been speaking outside the Iranian embassy in London. Let's take a listen.
This time, are we going to win? Yes, we are! We're going to win. And it is a terrible price. A terrible price being paid by many innocent people in every Iranian city right now. But you've got to believe that this is the moment.
We really appreciate you. May God bless you, and we wish everything good for you.
Well, may God bless all of you, and let freedom around.
That's Nigel Farage there supporting Iranian people in Britain re the downfall of the Ayatollah in Iran. Now, meanwhile, today, MPs are debating whether an immediate general election should be called after 1 million people, more than, sign a petition amid growing frustration with the Labour government over a growing range of issues. Live pictures there of that debate from Parliament. It is being chaired by a Scottish Conservative, that is John Lamont MP, and Sir Keir Starmer, just to manage expectations, will not be appearing today to speak on behalf of the government. Instead, it will be a Labour minister, Anna Turley, responding on behalf of the government. Well, I'm joined in the studio to discuss this by the political commentator Matthew Stadler. Matthew, live pictures there on the screen of this debate in Parliament. 3 hours have been pencilled in. We will no doubt have a huge range of views and a lot of bile towards the government being aired today. But let's manage expectations. This will not precipitate a general election. It's a part of the democratic interface of the public. You sign a petition. If it reaches a certain amount, it gets debate. That's what's happening today. But nevertheless, there is a growing dissatisfaction with this government from the general public. This is a symptom of that.
It's an absolute nonsense. It's totally within the democratic rules, of course. They're free to do this, but it's obviously a nonsense. We have a system in our country, like it or not, I rather like it, that we have general elections every 4 or 5 years. We had one a year and a half ago. Labour won with a landslide, and now they've got to get on and do the job.
But we have a democratic process where elections are being cancelled. And we'll find out at midnight on Wednesday if Sir Keir Starmer has cancelled a raft of elections. And many people can see Mark Francois, Conservative, speaking. No doubt he'll be saying merry words towards his old chum, Sir Keir Starmer. But the point is, elections being cancelled at midnight on May, and that's part of the rising dissatisfaction. People want to vote. I agree with you. Democracy is beautiful. This government's cancelling it.
Oh, hang on. First of all, you know very well, Martin, they're not cancelling. If anything, they will postpone some elections because there's a massive reorganisation of local...
Tomatoes.
Well, there's a huge difference. There's a massive reorganisation of local government. We had a huge debate, didn't we? A bit of a ding-dong ourselves last week about this. And I said, show me the evidence that these elections, if they are postponed, are being postponed for anti-democratic reasons. If you can find that evidence, and it's, by the way, totally reasonable for you to interrogate this, and opposition parties are crying foul, if you can find that evidence, I will join you in utterly condemning the government, but I need to see the evidence first. On the wider question of whether there should be a general...
The evidence is the vast majority of cancellations are in areas where Labour expect us to get battered. Do the math.
If your stats are right, you can argue that's suggestive. I still want to see the evidence that the Labour government is deliberately postponing elections for narrow self-interest. If they're doing that, it's absolutely outrageous. On the wider question of should there be a general election, that's not how it works. That's not how our system works. Yes, the Labour government is unpopular. Yes, Keir Starmer is unpopular. He needs to turn it around. And there have been areas, like it or not, and it's difficult for them to get this message across because they're not particularly, I don't think, on social media. Certainly not on X. They're not particularly effective.
Well, they want to ban it.
But look at the ways in which they have improved people's lives. Breakfast clubs, free expansion, I think, of free school meals, NHS appointments, cutting waiting lists. And these are important things because these are the things, yes, we need more improvements within the NHS. I'm sure Wes Streeter would be the first to accept that. He said it was broken when he came into office. But this is progress that can actually make people's lives better. Look at the minimum wage. For people on very, very low incomes, that is surely good news. Protections for renters, people who are vulnerable in our society, are getting help. The scrapping of the two-child benefit cap, dragging children out of poverty.
Interrupt because we are now going live to government for that statement on X.
Is vile. It's not just an affront to decent society, it is illegal. The Internet Watch Foundation reports criminal imagery of children as young as 11, including girls sexualised and topless. This is child sexual abuse. We've seen reports of photos being shared of women in bikinis, tied up and gagged, with bruises, covered in blood, and much, much more. Lives can and have been devastated by this content, which is designed to harass, torment, and violate people's dignity. They are not harmless images. They're weapons of abuse, disproportionately aimed at women and girls. And they are illegal. Last week, X limited the image creation function to paid subscribers. This does not go anywhere near far enough. It is insulting to victims to say, you can still have this service if you're willing to pay. And it is monetising abuse. So let me be crystal clear. Under the Online Safety Act, sharing intimate images without someone's consent or threatening to share them, including images of people in their underwear, is a criminal offence for individuals and for platforms. My predecessor, the Right Honourable Member for Hove and Portslade, rightly made this a priority offence, so services have to take proactive action to stop this content from appearing in the first place. The Data Act, passed last year, made it a criminal offence to create or request the creation of non-consensual intimate images. And today, I can announce to the House that this offence will be brought into force this week. And that I will make it a priority offence in the Online Safety Act too. This means individuals are committing a criminal offence if they create or seek to create such content, including on X. And anyone who does this should expect to face the full extent of the law. But the responsibilities do not just lie with individuals for their own behaviour. The platforms that host such material must be held accountable, including X. Madam Deputy Speaker, Ofcom this morning confirmed that they have opened a formal investigation into X and will assess their compliance with the Online Safety Act. The government expects Ofcom to set out a timeline for the investigation as soon as possible. The public, and most importantly, the victims of Grok's activities, expect swift and decisive action, so this must not take months and months. But X does not have to wait for the Ofcom investigation to conclude. They can choose to act sooner to ensure this abhorrent and illegal material cannot be shared on their platform. If they do not, Ofcom will have the backing of this government to use the full powers which Parliament has given them. And I would remind X and all other platforms that this includes the power to issue fines of up to 10% of a company's worldwide qualifying revenue. And in the most serious cases, Ofcom can apply for a court order to stop UK users accessing the site. Madam Deputy Speaker, this government will do everything in our power to keep women and especially children safe online. So I can today confirm that we will build on all the measures I have already outlined and legislate in the Crime and Policing Bill, which is currently going through Parliament, to criminalise nudification apps. This new criminal offence will make it illegal for companies to supply tools designed to create non-consensual intimate images, targeting the problem at its source. And in addition to all of these actions, we expect technology companies to introduce the steps recommended by Ofcom's guidance on how to make platforms safer for women and girls without delay. And if they do not, I am prepared to go further. Because this Labour government believes tackling violence against women and girls is as important online as it is in the real world. Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, this is not, as some would claim, about restricting freedom of speech. That's something that I and the whole government hold very dear. It is about tackling violence against women and girls. It's about upholding basic British values of decency and respect and ensuring the standards we expect offline are upheld online. And it is about exercising our sovereign power and responsibility to uphold the laws of this land. I hope this is a time when MPs on all sides of the House will stand up for British laws and British values and call out the platforms that allow explicit, degrading and illegal content. It is time to choose a side. Opposition MPs can either support the legislative action we are taking under the Online Safety Act, or they can ally themselves with those who think the creation and publication of sexually manipulated images of women and children is acceptable. And I say in particular to the one Reform MP sitting in this House that if they continue to call for Online Safety Act to be repealed, they are shamefully supporting scrapping protections that keep women and children safe. If I may, Madam Deputy Speaker, briefly, I'd like to address calls from many MPs and others, understandable calls for the government to end its participation on X. I really do understand why many colleagues have come to this conclusion when X seems so unwilling to clean up its act. The government will, of course, keep our participation on X under review. But our job is to protect women and girls from illegal and harmful content wherever it is found. And I think it's also worth bearing in mind, with 19 million people on X in this country, and more than a quarter of them saying that they use it as their primary source of news, that our views, and often simply the facts, need to be heard wherever possible. Madam Deputy Speaker, let me conclude by saying this. I believe, and the government believes, AI is a transformative technology which has the power and potential to bring around extraordinary and welcome change, creating jobs and growth, diagnosing and treating diseases, helping children learn at school, tackling climate change, and so much more besides. But in order to seize these opportunities, people must feel confident that they and their children are safe online and that AI is not used for destructive and abusive ends. Many tech companies want to and are acting responsibly, but where they do not, we must and we will act. Innovation should serve humanity, not degrade it. So we'll leave no stone unturned in our determination to stamp out these demeaning, degrading and illegal images. If that means strengthening the existing laws, we are prepared to do so. Because this government stands on the side of decency. We stand on the side of law. We stand for basic British values that are supported by the vast majority of people in this country, and I commend this statement to the House.
Shadow Secretary of State, Julia Lopez.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and to the Secretary of State for advance notice of her statement. Last week, the public outrage was rightly expressed about the use of artificial intelligence to undress women and children in photographs by X's AI assistant Grok. The use of AI in this way, without consent, is wrong. It is disturbing, and in many cases, it is illegal. We support Ofcom taking enforcement action where an AI tool is used to generate illegal content, especially that of children. We support the government's stance on nudification tools. X itself has warned of consequences for anyone prompting Grok to make illegal content. The tools in question have been put behind a paywall for the easy identification via name and bank details of anyone misusing them. Beyond the platform, however, the Internet Watch Foundation has identified cases where perpetrators have used Grok in tandem with other AI tools to generate Category A material. As the chairman of the Culture Select Committee has rightly said, such mainstream AI tools must not become an enabling step in the child abuse production pipeline. Madam Deputy Speaker, law already exists to deal with much of this. The Protection of Children Act, the Criminal Justice Act, the Sexual Offences Act, the Data Act when the government voted against Baroness Owen's tougher amendments, the Online Safety Act. These laws should be enforced, and we now await Ofcom setting out its next steps as an independent regulator. Regardless of the law, it is right to expect AI companies to anticipate and prevent misuse of products before their deployment through rigorous red teaming. For a law to deter, I accept the enforcement threat must be credible, but its use must also be proportionate. Notwithstanding the soft backpedalling of the Secretary of State today, the government's appendage swinging over the weekend was extremely serious. Ministers mooted as an urgent remedy the banning of a site of 21 million monthly users in this country, despite another minister guffawing that banning X was conspiracy theory number 3627. Madam Deputy Speaker, since its invention, the internet and social media have been misused, often criminally, by people traffickers, paedophiles, fraudsters, the gutter dwellers of our society. Nobody is on their side. But government has never before proposed to wholesale block TikTok, Google or Facebook for the frequent and often flagrant misuse of their sites. It is an extraordinarily serious move against a platform that can be used for good, for uncovering scandals, sparking democratic revolution and allowing day-to-day the free exchange of ideas, including ideas we don't like. It is that very power for good that sees Iran's mullahs reach to block the internet in the face of courageous protesters. This episode poses legitimate questions about who holds power in the internet age. Many worry about the accrued influence of big tech titans, myself included. But, Madam Deputy Speaker, they worry too about the power of government to divert, hide and duck accountability. They worry about this government. The uncomfortable truth for all of us is that some of this imagery sits in a legal grey area. What Grok produced at scale in 2026 is a modern-day iteration of an old problem, from crude drawings to Photoshop. Grok is not the only tool capable of generating false or offensive imagery, and not all of this content will cross the threshold into illegality. Plenty of it is sick, degrading, morally repugnant, but it does not cross the criminal threshold. What then is the Secretary of State proposing to do about the difficult enforcement choices that a regulator or police force must make? Because the risk is that with finite resource in a highly politically sensitive environment, regulators could be diverted from pursuing the most abhorrent and dangerous crimes. Further, if we wish to mitigate the risk to children, one simple intervention may help stop from sharing their own image too freely. That's raising the digital age of consent for social media to 16. The Mayor of Manchester, Andy Burnham, fulsomely agrees as the cross-party consensus grows. Does the Secretary of State? Madam Deputy Speaker, the Secretary of State knows that there are geopolitical consequences to her rhetoric. Figures close to President Trump have already threatened sanctions. Has the Secretary of State engaged with the US government? Has she been advised on the nature of any retaliation were the UK government to block X? The US-UK tech deal has already been paused. We need clarity on what else is at stake. To conclude, Madam Deputy Speaker, the Tech Secretary has said this government is as determined to ensure women and girls are safe online as we are to ensure they are safe in the real world. To this end, will she be ensuring the government enforces against itself for its failure to advance the rape gang inquiry, its failure to stop puberty blocking trials, its failure to implement guidance on single-sex spaces, its inability to deport illegal migrants who have committed sex offences? For while this government rightly worries about the online sphere, and we support them, there is plenty to be getting on with in the real world.
Secretary of State.
Really? Is that the best you can do? Conservative Party now?
I was going to say at the beginning I was grateful to the Honourable Lady.
Well, that was the tech minister there, Liz Kendall. A quite astonishing assault on X, on Elon Musk. The nudification of images via Grok AI, she said, would now be a criminal act under British law from next week. This is monetising abuse, she said. It is time to choose a side. This is not about limiting freedom of speech, something this government holds dear, she claims. This is about ending violence against women and girls. I'm joined by Chris Hope and Matthew Stavlin. Chris, a quick nibble from you. An astonishing broadside here against tech, but specifically, let's be frank, against Elon Musk.
Yes, I think the problem they've got there is it's not just Grok that does these images, it's Chat, GDP and other platforms that you've been talking about, Martin, on the show already. I think it's interesting choosing a side here. They're going kind of all in with the Lib Dems here, trying to unite the left here against this bogeyman, Elon Musk. It's really about children and women, not about all banning everything. I think this looks like the first sally in a big battle this year, frankly.
But they're fake images. They're not real images. It's AI creating a fake image of a person. It's not a real image. I wonder if the government here is losing its mind the same way as it lost its mind over pornography. They can't control. Matthew Sadler, I put it to you that Elon Musk is going to look at this and once again double down on the fact that Britain is becoming a banana republic of free speech.
I was going to say,
you can't control.
How can anyone disagree with what Liz Kendall was saying on the issue of Grok digitally undressing people, and then there you are, just disagreeing with it?
Because
that seems to me to be entirely
image.
uncontroversial. It's humiliating of people. It's disgusting. This shouldn't be going on.
Would you care if a picture of you appeared in a bikini?
I wouldn't love it. I'm pretty thick-skinned.
Yeah,
people have digitally manipulated me to be doing all sorts of horrendous things with other people, and yeah, it is quite humiliating. But I'm thick-skinned. If I was a woman or a girl, and particularly if someone's underage, for goodness sake, this is really disgusting stuff. It is an interesting face-off here in the new world of human beings against bots and robots and so forth. The wider issue, if I can call it wider, is this the first step of the Labour government testing the water and seeing whether one day it might ban X? Because I am on X and I will stay on X certainly as long as my government is on X. But I can tell you, as someone uses it on the centre-left, there are very few of me left for a start, so the debate is massively skewed. It isn't really a debate. And also, it is a swamp. It is a sewer of racism and bigotry and unpleasantness and incitement to this, that and the other. Very interesting territory, very interesting times ahead on whether Labour will go down that route.
Chris Hope, I put it to you that if you go down the route of banning social media platforms, you put yourself in the same Venn diagram as Iran, North Korea and Russia. It's an absurd position for a government to take.
I think many would agree with you. I think that's why I think they've gone quite far here. I think if they could easily try and tweak the algorithm that underlines, you can't have children's faces being on, notification apps. It's a complete outrage what happens here. The feeling in number 10 is extremely strong, Martin, unusually strong about this one. The fight now being played out, as we've seen on screen there with Liz Kendall. I think we'll run and run this year. We'll see what Elon Musk does. To ban X, though, you use some backstop powers that Ofcom have. You get a court to do it. We are looking at Elon Musk versus Labour government in court.
You're exactly right. And only a few months ago, there was a huge, big tech deal announced on British soil via Donald Trump. I put it to you, that entire thing could be at risk. If this government goes to war with big tech could pull the plug on millions and millions of pounds of investment.
There are reports
what is
on
the
hold
point of doing it? We have to move on, because if you're just joining us now, good afternoon. It's bang on 5 p.m. Welcome to the Martin Daubney Show here on GB News, broadcasting live across the UK on the very latest news, debates and analysis all the way through until 6 p.m. We've got a corker of the show, and here's what's on your menu. That top story I just reported there. Sexualised images created by the AI chatbots, the AI Grok, are weapons of abuse. The Technology Secretary Liz Kendall has just said in the House of Commons. She told MPs that creating non-consensual intimate images will now become a criminal offence under UK law from this week. We're debating whether the Labour government is at war with Elon Musk's X, and also coming up on today's show.
Time for another glorious revolution to get us back to a fully sovereign parliament, and where the government really is the government. For that, my friends, Britain needs reform.
Chancellor Nadhim Zahawi today became the latest and the biggest name Conservative to defect to Nigel Farage's Reform UK. The Tories have brutally blasted him as it has been. But with his vast experience, is Mr Zahawi precisely what Reform UK needs to be ready and fit to govern?
It's fantastic news, isn't it? And of course, every case is a tragedy, and we do an amazing job supporting the families in those moments, and we solve 95% of those cases.
Yeah, the Met Chief Sir Mark Rowley and Sir Sadiq Khan, the London Mayor, have today claimed homicides in London are down by 11%. But is London really safer under Labour's Mayor? Well, GBNews has done a deeper dive into the data, and it paints a very different picture to that of Sir Sadiq. I'll be joined in the studio by Reform's mayoral hopeful Layla Cunningham, who Khan has blasted for spreading distortions and untruths about London being in the grip of a crime wave. And as Donald Trump considers very strong options for American involvement in Iran, the Islamic Republic warns any attack will wreak retaliation after more than 500 protesters are now reported dead as the unrest in Iran spirals. And one of those killed includes a 23-year-old student anti-regime protester who was shot in the back of the head and buried by the roadside. We'll have all the latest throughout the show, and that's all coming up in your next hour. Welcome to the show. An astonishing statement there from Liz Kendall in the Commons. A broadside, a war, surely it has now been started with the owner of X, Elon Musk, raging about the AI chatbot Grok creating so-called sexualised and nudified criminal images of children and girls and women. She said this is monetising abuse. The platforms need to be held accountable, demanding a full Ofcom inquiry, with that being accountable to law. This is not about limiting freedom of speech, she claims, something this government holds dear. This is about ending violence against women and girls. It is time to choose a side. The first shot has been fired there. Well, actually, the latest shot in an ongoing war of words between Elon Musk, Sir Keir Starmer's Labour Party. One, I think, that could have huge repercussions for the future of the Labour Party being on X, and actually big tech from America even being on British soil. The sky is the limit. Get involved in the debate. GBNews.com/your say is the way to do so. You can use the QR code. But now it's time for your news headlines with Katie Bowen.
Martin, thank you and good afternoon. The headlines at 3 minutes past 5, and as you've been saying, Technology Secretary Liz Kendall says no woman or child should live in fear of having their images manipulated by technology. That's as she announced that creating non-consensual intimate images will be made a criminal offence this week. Speaking in the House of Commons, Liz Kendall said the creation of these images is child sexual abuse, adding that lives have been devastated by this content. The intervention comes as Britain's media regulator Ofcom has launched a formal investigation into X over claims its AI tool Grok is being used to generate sexualised images of women and children. Ofcom says it gave the company a deadline to explain how it's protecting UK users and has now fast-tracked a probe into whether it's breaking the Online Safety Act. The Technology Secretary said sexualised images created by the AI chatbot are weapons of abuse.
Sharing intimate images without someone's consent or threatening to share them, including images of people in their underwear, is a criminal offence for individuals and for platforms. The Data Act, passed last year, made it a criminal offence to create or request the creation of non-consensual intimate images. And today, I can announce to the House that this offence will be brought into force this week.
Elsewhere today, former Conservative Chancellor Nadhim Zahawi has defected to Reform UK, declaring Britain is drinking at the last chance saloon. Standing alongside Nigel Farage in London, Mr Zahawi said the country really does need Nigel Farage as Prime Minister to pull it back from what he called a dark and dangerous chapter. Mr Farage hailed the move as proof that Reform UK is not a one-man band. The Conservative Party has hit back, calling Mr Zahawi a has-been, while Labour Party Chair Anna Turley described him as a discredited politician. Here's what he had to say.
If you don't yet realise that Britain needs reform, you know in your heart of hearts that our wonderful country is sick. How many of you at home have thought to yourselves that nothing works today? I know I have, and I have it a damn sight easier than most people. That is why I'm standing here today as the newest member of Reform UK.
Retired military chiefs have warned peers that handing over the Chagos Islands could put Britain's security at risk. That's ahead of a crucial vote in the House of Lords this afternoon. In a letter signed by several former military leaders, the Diego Garcia base is described as a unique and irreplaceable strategic asset. The Lords are currently debating that bill, which would formalise the UK's agreement to transfer sovereignty of the islands to Mauritius. It looks like that reading's just finished up there. Chagos First Minister has accused the, quote, increasingly dysfunctional government of losing its moral bearings. Labour insists that the deal is the only way to adequately protect the Diego Garcia base from the influence of other countries like China. To the Middle East, where Iran is entering a third week of unrest with a rising death toll and the regime tightening its grip on nationwide protests. Human rights groups say at least 544 people have been killed and more than 10,000 arrested as protests harden into open defiance of the supreme leader. From Washington, President Donald Trump says Iran wants to negotiate, but warns he hasn't ruled out military action, with the White House now weighing what it calls very strong options.
We're watching it very closely. If they start killing people like they have in the past, I think they're going to get hit very hard by the United States.
Well, inside Iran, an internet blackout continues, cutting off the outside world as state TV insists the streets are calm. But on the ground, activists say the crackdown is intensifying, with arrests, disappearances and deadly force still being used. And tens of thousands of people across Sussex and Kent are starting the week without running water after Kent County Council declared a major incident. South East Water blames Storm Goretti, freezing weather and a power failure at a pumping station, with 14 postcodes still dry around East Grinstead, Frant and Tunbridge Wells. Schools, libraries and even parts of the local hospital have been forced to shut, with bottled water being handed out and tankers sent in to keep essential services running. Local MP Mike Martin says the situation is bizarre, warning the water company must now get a grip. Those are the latest GB News headlines. A quick look at the finance.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Here's a quick look at the markets. The pound will buy you $1.3470 and €1.1538. The price of gold is £3,431.66 per ounce, and the FTSE 100 is at 10,147 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GB News Financial Report.
Katie, astonishing breaking news in these past few moments, because a short while ago the Tech Secretary Liz Kendall had this to say in Parliament.
And so does the government.
This is live images there of the Tech Secretary Liz Kendall talking in Parliament earlier on. She claimed that sexualised images created by the AI chatbot Grok are, quote, weapons of abuse. She told MPs that creating non-consensual intimate images will become a criminal offence in the United Kingdom from this week. Now, does all of this mean that the Labour government are at war with Elon Musk? A continuing war of words just took a significant step forward, an astonishing confrontation. I'm joined in the studio by GB News' political editor Chris O, but also by Leda Cunningham, the councillor for Reform UK in Westminster and also the London mayoral candidates. Welcome to you both. Chris, let's start with you. I think an astonishing upping of the ante here. Liz Kendall, the Tech Secretary, declared these images created, don't forget, these are fake images created by AI, will be criminalised, nudification, it is monetising abuse. The platforms must be held accountable. The government expects Ofcom to set out a full timeline of this. She talks about up to 10% of profit,
turnover,
10% of turnover, billions of dollars being taken as fines from Elon Musk, and directly levelling. This is not about limiting freedom of speech, something this government holds dear. That's a separate conversation. But this is about ending violence against women and girls. It is time to choose a side. Many people are seeing this as the first steps towards this Labour government incredibly trying to ban X.
This issue of these nudification apps, these images of girls and young women, is absolutely electrified the atmosphere in Number 10. They are up for this fight. They are taking on principally Elon Musk, who owns X, but also the other makers of these AIs, these AI apps, how they will develop it. They are not holding back. We're told in lobby this morning that Ofcom investigation has its full backing and support. They will change the law this week to criminalise the creation of those apps. How far that will go, I know you've been talking earlier, and Elon Musk has tweeted pictures of Keir Starmer in a bikini, obviously created using AI. Will that be criminalised? Will the law start trying to approach Elon Musk and take him to task and say, you've broken the law, Elon Musk? And how will that work? And yet, as you say, those 10% fines of turnover are immense. This is a real line in the sand has been drawn here between the Labour government and big tech.
Chris, the European Union went after 10% of profits for the EU. Donald Trump declared war on them. The same could happen, it probably will happen here in the UK. This so-called big tech deal was done in Britain between America and the United Kingdom. That could be pulled. That would have a huge impact here. And only, Chris, if only this government had saved the same energy towards investigating rape gangs, actual sexual offences, real sexual offences. Actually, that's an inquiry they voted against.
Sorry, Lady Cunning, but they have agreed to do a review eventually into the rape gangs. The inquiry starts by March this year. They got the data together. They are slow to act. When they do act, they are doing it. I think Number 10 do tell us that their position on free speech is clear. We are very proud of it. We have had it for a very long time in the UK, and we are fully committed to free speech and upholding that. I wonder what Sarah B. Rogers, who is his free speech czar for Donald Trump, what she will say about that. I think she's due possibly on GB News tonight.
Layla, let's get you in.
The thing is, what Labour doesn't understand is that free speech is only free when it's all free, not approved opinions, like they like to say, not offence. They've been trying to shut down X for a while. They're desperate because it's the only place where you can get in real time government failures, government corruption, government hypocrisy, and they can't control the narrative at all. And let's face it, it's not good for Labour. And so this is a way of going after it. Effectively, those photos can be done on any platform, and it's only going to get quicker.
Have you been done? Have you made of you on for these platforms?
I haven't, but I haven't been done yet. But the moment the moment there is a law that says that the government decides what is fake, what else are they going to do? The danger is banning deep fakes is much bigger because it gives the government the ultimate control on deciding what images we are allowed to deem real and what images we are not. You saw it today. Sir Mark Rowley, came out fighting, all guns blazing, against my candidacy and said that London is safe because homicide is down. One stat. Everything else is completely up. And he said, it's completely safe. And the videos you see online, by the way, they're not real. They're AI. He has absolutely no proof of that. And can I just go back to your point, Martin?
Yeah, before we go on to that debate, we're having that debate in a moment. Let's get back to Liz Kendall on this astonishing situation.
And she said that we are against fighting violence against women and girls if we vote against this. I'm sorry, is this the same party that overlooked rape gangs? Is this the same party where we have a 6% charge for rape and sexual assaults? That means 94% of victims don't get a look in.
So are you saying that Reform UK, if you're in power, would reverse any ban on X in Britain?
Yes. Yes, I mean, I know that Nigel has said that. And yes, because we believe in freedom of speech. And by the time we're in power, AI is going to be so swift, you're going to be able to do that on your phone.
OK.
We have to learn to deal with AI, not to ban things.
I think many governments have lost their minds over technology. We saw it with David Cameron's Conservative Party over pornography. They always think banning things is the answer. It never, ever works, Chris. I've told you this. I've spoken to over 50,000 teenagers about this very, very topic. Yeah. The amount of children in every classroom in Britain who know more about tech than any government minister is off the scale. A ban, I think, is living in cloud cuckoo land. Love of me. Let's move on to our next story, because the number of homicides, as Layla Cunningham there intimated in London, has dropped to its lowest level in over a decade. Now, the Metropolitan Police Commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley, told GB News earlier on today that London is now safer than ever.
This is fantastic news, isn't it? And of course, every case is a tragedy, and we do an amazing job supporting the families in those moments, and we solve 95% of those cases. I think we should just dwell on the fact that London is comparatively safe globally as well. There are cities like Paris or Milan or Toronto, their homicide rates are half as big again. Cities like New York or Brussels or Berlin are 3 times our rate. That's because of the fantastic work we've done targeting the most dangerous criminals.
So there's been an 11% decline in homicide, but it's the true picture that London is a safe utopia, or might there be another side to this story? Well, let's have a debate now. Of course, you know I'm joined in the studio by Reform UK's London mayoral candidate Layla Cunningham, and I'm also joined down the line by the political commentator Fahima Mohammed. First, Layla Cunningham, let's speak with you. So credit where it's due. Homicides are down by 11%. But does that mean that London is now a safe, flower-sprinkled utopia?
Yeah, so homicide has always been low in London, luckily. It is the narrowest and lowest slice of the pie that we've ever had. But you don't measure safety in terms of who dies. You measure safety in other crimes. So you measure safety, rape is up. Muggings up, robberies up, shoplifting's up, theft from person is up, knife crime is up, drug is up. And that is the reason why Sadiq Khan and Sir Mark Rowley have only mentioned homicides. They didn't mention any other stat because there is no other stat that paints a rosy picture like they like us to have. And the fact that they, as Mark Rowley and Sadiq Khan, compared us to Chicago, the fact that we are being compared in terms of crime rates to Chicago means we've lost the argument. 15 years ago, we would never dream of comparing our crime rate to Chicago. And yes, homicide might be less than Chicago and New York. They have guns, so an attack is a lot more lethal. But actually, in terms of knife crime, we are higher than New York. Knife crime is up by over 60% since his period. And a rape is reported every single hour in the capital. And you know how many end up in a charge? 6%, Martin. That means 94% of victims don't even get a look in by the men. And he has the audacity to look women and girls in the eye and say that London is the safest it's been. It's offensive.
Sir Sadiq Khan has specifically singled you out for attack today in The Guardian, obviously. He said that Reform's new candidates for the mayor claims that people pity Londoners for living in an unsafe capital, but the evidence is clear. We're making our streets safer.
How can it, if you just forget the stat, how can it be safer when we have effectively no visible policing? Speak to any Londoner, there is no police. We all know that a policeman is a deterrent. We only have 2 public counters that are open 24/7 in a city of 9 million. He has halved stop and search. All data, all stats shows that when you remove stop and search, knife crime does go up because it prevents taking knives off the person before they commit that crime. If anything, you have to have there's the cause and correlation. With no police, obviously, there's a power vacuum on our streets, and that power vacuum has been filled with criminals. And he even removed police from the Royal Parks in November. I mean, my Safer Neighbourhood team had 7, now it has 1. And actually, to him to look people in the eye and say that London is safe, and he is gaslighting people. And all I find, Sir Mark Rowley and Sir Sadiq Khan, all they're doing is policing public perception. We really want them to police the streets.
OK, thank you very much, Layla Cunningham. Stick with us. Let's get my next guest in now, and that's the political commentator Fahima Mohammed. Fahima, welcome to the show, and a belated Happy New Year to you. Thanks for your contributions last year. I hope there'll be many more this year. What's your take on the notion that, OK, homicide is 11% down, but elsewhere, rape is up 84% under Sir Sadiq Khan's mayoralty. Knife crime is up 69%. Street robbery up 67%. Violent crime up 37%. Drug offences up 44%. It's for the birds to claim London is safer under Sadiq Khan.
I hear you, and London does have real challenges, but the spiralling into chaos, that story doesn't survive the facts and the evidence. And you can't fix national problems from City Hall and pretending otherwise. It's just political theatre, not leadership. There will never be a new sheriff in town. And here's the key reality that everyone keeps dodging. A mayor can only set priorities through MOPAC and hold the Met to account, but a mayor cannot rewrite right, criminal law, sentencing, prisons, or the court or immigration policies. These powers sit with central government under UK law. So when someone promises they'll make London safe by simply winning City Hall, they either misunderstand how the system works, or they're selling political theatre.
Fahima, the reality is Sir Sadiq Khan is the de facto police and crime commissioner for London. It's his responsibility to deal with London crime, and he's taken the credit when there's a decrease in crime. Isn't it amazing? When there's an increase, it's always central government's fault. Come on, you can't have it both ways.
No, there is definitely certain policies and certain responsibilities that are held from City Hall. And day-to-day policing is not done by any mayor, whatever party they're in. I am definitely pro-safety, not pro-panic. Victims deserve, really do deserve solutions, not slogans. And serious violence, is down and theft is up. So we need to deal with both, not distort. And City Hall sets strategies. Parliament controls sentencing and prisons. So, public safety will only improve with the evidence, not exaggeration and the fear.
Fahima, I'll give you some evidence now as to why, potentially, homicide is down by 11%. And that is because a specific violence reduction unit was created against the backdrop of a crime epidemic in Britain. And guess what? Stop and search is up 20%. Millions of pounds have been spent. Stop and search is something that Mayor Khan promised to get rid of when he was the mayoral candidate in 2016. He called it institutionally racist. He had to do a U-turn on that as the bodies piled up. Now he's actually got back to common sense. There has been an impact. Let's be honest. Sadiq Khan has seen a downturn in homicides because he did what everyone knew was a good idea in the first place.
Well, the Met has had serious failings, especially around trust and accountability. But that's an argument for reform and for oversight, not declaring that the city is unsafe and weak institutes don't equal a lawless city. So what we need to obviously understand here is that, it's just the exaggeration at the end of the day. And the real dangers I feel in London today is the actual rhetoric and propaganda by certain parties, with regards to immigration that puts people like myself at risk on the streets because I'm brown and seen as an immigrant that doesn't belong here. And everyone that comments after I speak is voting for, meaning that I don't belong here. Some of the greatest abuse
that's increasing in London is anti-Semitism. And that's not committed on the whole by white people.
And also anti-Muslim hate.
Violence is
both.
Let's be frank, you just want to highlight one. Pro-Palestine protesters are causing a huge uptick in violence and abuse against Jewish people. So don't make out this is racism against people like yourself committed by white people. That's simply
No, it's true, because at the end of the day, we also have 13 Jewish organizations on the Palestinian marches, so don't misrepresent what they actually are as well. And yes, the crime rate on Muslims is really high, but no one wants to address that because we are not seen as important.
What about crimes committed potentially by Muslims against Jews?
Only
Should we talk about that?
Over another.
OK, Fahima Mohammed, we'll have to leave it there. But thanks for joining us. A spirited exchange as ever. Let's have many, many more in 2026. I appreciate your time. Quick reaction there. Layla Cunningham, you were listening into that very quickly.
Yeah, so she's completely wrong with the mayor's role. The mayor is the police and crime commissioner. He sets the direction, he sets the priorities, and he sets the budget. Everything that has happened lies directly at his door. In fact, he created a specialist unit to target hate speech. I want to see specialist units to target rape crime, knife crime, shoplifting, because all those metrics are up, and the only metric that's gone down is homicides. And when you say 11%, by the way, it's 2 homicides or 3 homicides less because it's such a low number.
Lady Cunningham, we have to leave it there. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate your time as ever. Coming up next, we'll be discussing the police chief behind the decision to ban Maccabi Tel Aviv football fans from a football match was praised by Muslim leaders for his handling of pro-Palestine protests. Astonishing. That's next on GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline.
Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, Parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Got some breaking news to bring you now. In the last few moments, big news from the world of football. The Real Madrid manager, Xabi Alonso, has left Real Madrid with immediate effect. Now, the club described the decision as a mutual agreement. This comes, of course, after they were defeated by their arch rivals, Barcelona. Some breaking news to bring you in these past few moments. Huge news from the world of football. Real Madrid manager, the gaffer there, Xabi Alonso, has left Real Madrid with immediate effect. And the club described the decision, as they always tend to do, as a mutual agreement. Huge news there from the football. We'll have more on that throughout the rest of the show. Back now to some British politics, and Muslim leaders have praised the West Midlands police for their decision to ban Maccabi Tel Aviv football fans. Over 90 mosques and other organisations wrote to the Chief Constable, the under-fire Craig Guildford, thanking him for not intervening in anti-Israeli demonstrations at the University of Birmingham. Now, this comes, of course, amid huge pressure that he faces accusations that the decision to ban Israeli football supporters was politically motivated rather than based on genuine safety concerns. A huge amount of pressure on West Midlands Police Chief. And let's now speak with the founder of Fair Cop, and that's Harry Miller. Harry, welcome to the show, and a very, very belated Happy New Year to you. A huge amount of pressure here on the West Midlands Police Chief. Quite apart from that, the notion that protests, anti-Israeli protests in universities in his catchment area were not policed in a robust manner, was praised by mosque leaders. Asked a very, very concerning question. How much power do radical Muslims seem to have over the West Midlands Police Force, and is that a concern?
Well, absolutely. It used to be the case that the lunatics had taken over the asylum. Now the mad mullahs have taken over police headquarters, and certainly in the West Midlands. I mean, it's an utterly outrageous situation where a chief constable's appointment is based on the recommendation of one of these lunatic mullahs. They have no business whatsoever getting involved in policing. And I say lunatic mullah advisedly, because the mullah in question was the guy who, at his mosque, he had a speaker there who said it's okay to hit your wife if she dares venture out without permission. This is hate speech. These are lunatics. What on earth is the chief constable doing, asking him for his permission to be chief constable? It's absolutely crazy. Now, the problem we have here is that the police are completely and utterly enthralled to Islam and also terrified of Islam. So they are permanently in a state of they don't know what to do. So what they resort to is sucking up to the imams, sucking up to the violent Asian mobs, and then persecuting the much smaller community of Jews. That's what happened with Maccabi Tel Aviv, the football club. It's clearly what happened when they refused to go into the universities and prevent the hate speeches there. It's absolutely outrageous, but this is something that is now typical of chief constables. I said just 18 months ago, I was on a march in Newcastle where the chief constable of Northumbria was marching with people shouting from the river to the sea, Palestine shall be free. We had the absurd spectacle this weekend of a whole bunch of police officers standing like flipping wooden tops outside a restaurant as a person with a microphone said that Zionists are not welcome in Notting Hill. This is what we've come to expect, Martin. Our police force is deeply, deeply anti-Semitic. I think if McPherson was around now doing a report, he would have a report that was 10 times as long as the original report into the racism of the Met Police, because anti-Semitism is absolutely everywhere and it's thriving.
Harry Miller, on the point of anti-Semitism, the open letter that was signed by 92 pro-Palestine mosques, charities and community groups to the chief police said, we do not wish to see our police service being used as a tool to evict or intimidate students exercising their right to protest. Those protesters on Birmingham-based universities had shouted death to Zionists and held up banners saying Zionists off our campus. The coppers didn't involve and the mosque seemed happy about that.
That's absolutely, of course they're happy about it, because the police are taking the political position of radical Islam. I don't know why they're doing that. Well, I say part of it is fear. When it came to the football match, the actual truth was that they'd got intelligence that lunatic Asian mob had tooled up and were going to go out looking for Jews to beat up. So the response of the police was not to protect the Jews, but to ban the Jews from the area, to ban the football club from the area. That's not how a police force should operate. It is not the primary concern of a chief constable to keep us all safe. If it was, he would enforce a curfew on us all and tell us all to stay at home. That's how you keep people safe. No, it's the chief constable's job to enable us to go about our business, whether it's to the pub, to the university, to a demonstration, to a football match, and reduce the risk of trouble. That is their job. What the chief constable has done here is capitulated for political purposes.
OK, Harry Miller, founder of FACOP, we have to leave it there. And just to point out the notion that everybody in the West Midlands Police Force is anti-Semitic, of course, they would totally and utterly refute that comment. Harry Miller, thank you very much for joining us on the show. Always a pleasure to have your company. Thank you very much. Plenty more to come. But for now, if you're travelling home from school or from work, please, and I always say, stay safe. And here's your traffic and your travel update. And please stick with us.
Good afternoon. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. Take care on the A9 Kessock Bridge, where high winds are affecting driving conditions. In Warwickshire, slow traffic on the M42 northbound between Junction 7A and Junction 8 is adding around 10 minutes. In Bracknell Forest, a broken down vehicle on the M4 westbound between Junction 8 and Junction 10 has one lane closed. In Wales, the A489 between Machynlleth and Semis Road is blocked by an accident. And on the trains, Gatwick Express is delayed between Purley and Gatwick Airport, while Great Western Railway has rail replacement buses between Liscard and Looe. No trains between Par and Newquay, and disruption at Salisbury. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Hello again, this is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Through much of this week, whilst it is going to be markedly milder than last week, there will be some unsettled weather around, some heavy rain and even some strong winds. Currently we have low pressure to the north of the UK, and this is doing two things. It's driving some strong winds across northern parts. It's also dragging in our air from the southwest, which is why those temperatures are up compared to recent days. As we go overnight, much of England and Wales largely dry, some clear spells allowing for a bit of mist, maybe some low cloud to develop later on in the night. A bit of rain across parts of Northern Ireland, Northern England and southern Scotland, then across northern parts of Scotland, while clearer skies allowing temperatures to drop here. So some frost, some icy patches to watch out for as well first thing tomorrow morning. As we go through tomorrow then, yes, a cold, frosty, icy start across parts of northern Scotland could cause some travel disruption. There is a warning out as there are likely to be some delays. Also across western parts, a few showers starting to push their way in. Across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland, quite cloudy, quite damp outbreaks of rain, similar across parts of northern northwestern England, even the far northwest of Wales. That's because there is a front that's edging its way in. Much of the rest of England and Wales starting the day largely dry, quite cloudy, could be some mist around, like I said, but quite quickly we're going to see rain pushing into southern counties, and that's because of a waving frontal system that's going to edge its way a little bit further north and east as we go through the day, and then that front towards the northwest of the UK will kind of join up with it, so a bit of rain in a fair few places, and it could be a little bit heavy for some. Towards the northwest we get something a bit drier, brighter following in later, but also some cooler air, so temperatures here lower than today, but towards the south they're looking similar. Then as we go later on, that rain continues across some parts of the southeast, eventually clearing away. Further north and west we have drier, clearer weather taking us into a chilly start on Wednesday for many of us. Watch out for Thursday, could be some unsettled weather indeed.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
Welcome back. Time is 5:30. I'm delighted now to speaking with the Labour Party's Business and Trade Minister, Kate Dearden. Kate, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have your company. Can I first get your take on what I thought was an astonishing statement a short moment ago in the House of Commons from the Tech Minister, Liz Kendall, seemingly going to war with Elon Musk's X, threatening to take 10% of all of their worldwide profits for violations?
Good afternoon, Martin. Real pleasure to be with you and on your show. What we've seen in the House today and from our remarks is a immediate and urgent reaction to the extremely concerning things that we're seeing online. You know, really indecent images used without people's consent, complete online sexual harassment. It's completely unacceptable, and we've made that really clear today. We've seen the horrendous images from Grok on X and made it really clear of our expectations under our legislation and what we want people to feel and to see online. You know, women and young people and young children in particular should be safe on online platforms, and that's why it's really, really brilliant that our Secretary of State, Liz Kendall, just now in the House as she's responding to colleagues across the floor, has made it really clear about our intention this week to legislate, and particularly with Ofcom and their review this week, and we'll be following closely their developments and recommendations. But what's really clear from this government is, whether it's our wider strategy on violence against women and girls, to our expectations and requirements for people online and platforms, is that people should feel safe and they shouldn't be exploited without their consent. And we've seen that with these horrific sexualised images on Grok on X.
Kate, the problem, though, with threatening to take the profits of big tech platforms from America, the European Union tried this, is that Donald Trump generally fires back in return. And the so-called tech and prosperity deal between Trump and Keir Starmer, £31 billion worth, that's already been put on ice. It's already in jeopardy. And the notion that Donald Trump will simply idly sit by as American big tech corporations are threatened with 10% of their profits is for the birds. Today's move could put British jobs at risk.
There has to be consequences for online platforms when they're not abiding by the law, and ultimately when people's safety is at risk, particularly for women, girls and for young children. I don't think anyone can see what's happened online this week and think that's acceptable and we should be allowed to continue. So there has to be consequences, which is why that 10% figure is the right thing to do. We want people to abide by the law and this legislation, which is why we're moving at pace and with urgency this week with the own legislation that we can introduce, but the powers of Ofgem too, and we'll be giving them extended powers to do everything they can, because our absolute and ultimate priority is to keep people safe online, just as we expect them to be safe on our streets too.
Kate Dearden, a lot of people are saying today to us here at GBNews, if only the Labour Party had put so much effort and endeavour into keeping women safe at the behest of Muslim rape gangs in Britain rather than fake images online. The Labour Party, of course, voted against that national inquiry.
The vote you're referring to in particular was a Tory opposition amendment to a Children and Wellbeings Bill. It wasn't about our wider work on grooming gangs, and being really, really clear about our national inquiry and how seriously we are taking this with the utmost seriousness it requires. Some of these instances, I've seen it, I'm a West Yorkshire MP, have seen where it's been really horrific for young women and girls. We've been really, really clear about the consequences and to make sure those victims are at the forefront of our minds at all times, that we learn lessons and make sure that that never ever happens again to young women and girls in particular. So I'd say we've been really clear about how our next steps on our grooming gangs national inquiry, that's a serious that this issue takes, and we won't shy away.
OK, Kate Dearden, of course, as the Labour Business and Trade Minister, you're here today, of course, to talk about stronger parental leave rights the Labour Party have planning. Tell us all about it.
Thank you. Yes, as the Employment Rights Minister, steering through the Employment Rights Act 2025 over the past couple of months has been a real significant moment for this government and one I've been really proud to lead on. Today we've announced legislation, so new rights from day one for parental leave and paternity leave that will be kick off in April this year. So lots of people will see a difference to their rights at work, moving from day one, where they'll be able to access that parental leave that's so significant for so many dads across the country in particular. That you don't have to choose between that really important moment in your baby's life and being there for your family and caring responsibilities and going to work. So that leave from day one in April will be really significant, as will the wider parental leave for families and for parents where they do have caring responsibilities, that they can stay at home and look after their family and don't have to make the decision if they're worried to go back to their jobs. So it's part of our implementation stage of the Employment Rights Act that will change the lives of up to 18 million people across this country. It's a really significant piece of legislation that will change the lives of many, and I'm really delighted that we're starting on the implementation today so that people from April will feel those benefits. But also, just to add to that, we're also introducing an additional protection, and that's for people in really rare circumstances and horrific ones where the mother might have passed away during pregnancy, and it's passing on that leave to the partner so that they still have the ability to take that leave and to look after their loved ones and new ones. And I think that's a really important bit of this legislation too, and I'm really proud that we're delivering it. I pay tribute to the incredible campaigners and organisations that have worked with us to get to this place where we are today.
I appreciate your time there, Kate Dearden, and thank you for sticking up for dads. I got 2 weeks and I had to go straight back to work with my kids. Thank you for fighting for dads as well. The Labour Business and Trade Minister, Kate Dearden, thanks for your time today on GB News. Much appreciated. Thank you. Now, coming up next on GB News, we'll have all the latest in Iran as Donald Trump considers very strong options for American involvement in the Islamic Republic, the falling Islamic Republic, it seems, after now more than 500 protesters have been reported dead.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast. Hello, here's your latest holiday sun forecast brought to you by the Met Office. On Tuesday, we'll see some unsettled weather across the western Med with some snow across the hills further east. So confirmation then of some outbreaks of rain on Tuesday across the Canaries, Madeira, parts of western Spain and Portugal. Mostly fine, as I say, across the central part of the Med there, certainly for Italy, one or two showers and some bright spells too, but a risk of snow certainly across the hills of Turkey. As for the coming few days, well, things generally quieten down, but we'll see further rain at times across western parts.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock, only on GB News.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
More than 10 people have had to be rescued after a huge sinkhole opened in a canal in Shropshire, leaving several narrowboats stranded.
Yes, 3 boats have been affected by the incident, with at least 2 swallowed by the sinkhole, which is approximately 50 by 50 metres in size.
Extraordinary. Well, joining us with the story is Paul Smith-Story, who's on a canal boat 3 boats away from this sinkhole. Paul, this sort of thing doesn't really happen very often, does it?
It doesn't. There was a huge breach on the Bridgewater Canal last year, but this is the first time we've actually seen boats at the bottom of the breach. It was quite scary to witness, to be honest.
So how close are you? What can you see from where you are?
Yeah, well, we're about 90 metres away from where the sinkhole started. We got woke up at 20 past 4 this morning. There was crashing on the boat because the boat was listing. We got off and a friend of ours told us that there was this sinkhole that had appeared and that there was a boat about to drop into it. And that was, when we got there, the boat was already in the bottom of this sinkhole. The rush of water was incredible. It just sounded like a huge waterfall. Luckily, those boaters got out, and we actually know the chap whose first boat went in. We're just so thankful that he got out in time with his dog.
Gosh, Paul, just explain what we're seeing on our screens right now. So the narrowboat there has come out of the water that we see on the left, and has it rolled over and down into the sinkhole? What's going on?
That's the actual line where the red clay is the line of the canal. Just where those 3 trees are to the left is a field that's flooded, and I think that's where the water's escaped from the canal, and it's just flooded the field to the left of that image. It was really scary.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back. Time is 5:48 with me, Martin Daubney, on GB News. Now, at least 500 are feared dead over protests in Iran over the weekend escalated, and Tehran is warning Washington that it will retaliate against any attacks.
We're watching it very closely. If they start killing people like they have in the past, I think they're going to get hit very hard by the United States.
Well, President Trump says Iranian leaders have contacted the US to negotiate as he considers taking yet more military action. Meanwhile, the US joins calls to Downing Street to prescribe Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps as a terrorist organisation. Well, let's now speak with the Defence and the Foreign Affairs editor at The Telegraph, and that is Con Coughlin. Con, welcome to the show. Belated Happy New Year to you. So here we go. It appears that the Islamic regime in Tehran may finally be toppling.
Well, it looked that way, Martin. I mean, we've had many false dawns before. I remember in 2009, the Green Revolution, where everybody thought the Ayatollahs were looking at heading for the exits, and then they managed to suppress the revolt and stay in power. And of course, the thing about the Iranian regime is that they're very happy to resort to all kinds of brutality to save their own skins, and they do it under the guise of Islamic law. They have this catch-all charge of offences against God, and just for throwing a stone, you can find yourself being executed. So, I mean, it is a murderous regime. But I think the true extent of these protests and the fact that they've been provoked by the dire state of the Iranian economy, which got worse and worse and worse because of the misrule of the government. I don't think there's any turning back now. I think the momentum is with the protesters, and the Ayatollahs are in a desperate situation.
Con, as well as the Islamic Revolutionary Guard being prescribed as a terrorist organisation, what about the Muslim Brotherhood? And these organisations are taking grip on British streets. Is it time to stamp them out here?
Well, yes. I mean, successive governments, not just the current government, but the previous Conservative government looked into this, and they dodged the question. And I think if you're talking about the Muslim Brotherhood, which is another radical group that is widely regarded in the Middle East as being the creator of Al-Qaeda. That's the kind of ideology they have. And it's a Sunni movement compared with Iran, which is a Shiite Muslim movement. That's the only difference. But when the United Arab Emirates says they don't want their students to go to British universities because they're being indoctrinated by the Muslim Brotherhood, that's an indication of the scale of the problem we have here in this country, and the reason why the government should act to prescribe groups like the Muslim Brotherhood and the Revolutionary Guard.
Because, Con, we have a very brief moment here left. There's always the chance if the regime falls in Iran, then some of these radicals could make their way towards British soil.
Well, I think, Martin, some of them are already here. And I think the thing, if I was involved in the security services, I'd be looking at the Iranian sleeper cells who are based in the UK, who've already tried to assassinate Iranian dissidents in the UK in recent years. Will they be activated to up their game and carry out more terrorist attacks in the UK? That's the big question.
OK, thank you for your expertise. Always a pleasure to have your company on the show. That's the Defence and Foreign Affairs Editor at The Telegraph, Con Coughlin. Thank you very much for your time. Now, of course, next, it's Jubes & Co. And I bet she's got a ton to say on this astonishing war of words that's now become a real war between the Labour Party and Elon Musk. First shots fired by the Labour Party today. Jubes, tell us all about it.
Well, yeah, of course, it'd be rude not to get stuck into that topic. I personally find what's going on absolutely ridiculous. I know many of you will as well. I can't wait to talk to you about it. Of course, the sickness as well in this country. Is Nadeem Zahawi then the man to try and fix that sickness? Speaking of sickness as well, I can't wait to tell you one of the most ridiculous stories when it comes to the benefit system in this country that I've ever heard, quite frankly. And trust me, we hear a lot of ridiculous stuff on this matter, don't we? Every single day, so grab a cuppa and I'll see you in a sec.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again, this is your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Through much of this week, whilst it is going to be markedly milder than last week, there will be some unsettled weather around, some heavy rain and even some strong winds. Currently we have low pressure to the north of the UK, and this is doing two things. It's driving some strong winds across northern parts. It's also dragging in our air from the southwest, which is why those temperatures are up compared to recent days. As we go overnight, much of England and Wales largely dry, some clear spells allowing for a bit of mist, maybe some low cloud to develop later on in the night. A bit of rain across parts of Northern Ireland, Northern England and southern Scotland, then across northern parts of Scotland, while clearer skies allowing temperatures to drop here. So some frost, some icy patches to watch out for as well first thing tomorrow morning. As we go through tomorrow then, yes, a cold, frosty, icy start across parts of northern Scotland could cause some travel disruption. There is a warning out as there are likely to be some delays. Also across western parts, a few showers starting to push their way in. petition. Across Northern Ireland, southern Scotland, quite cloudy, quite damp outbreaks of rain, similar across parts of northern northwestern England, even the far northwest of Wales. That's because there is a front that's edging its way in. Much of the rest of England and Wales starting the day largely dry, quite cloudy, could be some mist around, like I said, but quite quickly we're going to see rain pushing into southern counties, and that's because of a waving frontal system that's going to edge its way a little bit further north and east as we go through the day, and then that front towards the northwest of the UK will kind of join up with it, so a bit of rain in a fair few places, and it could be a little bit heavy for some. Towards the northwest we get something a bit drier, brighter following in later, but also some cooler air, so temperatures here lower than today, but towards the south they're looking similar. Then as we go later on, that rain continues across some parts of the southeast, eventually clearing away. Further north and west we have drier, clearer weather, taking us into a chilly start on Wednesday for many of us. Watch out for Thursday, could be some unsettled weather indeed.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you for making us Britain's #1 news channel. Together, we have built something truly extraordinary.
Good evening. This is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. On the M1 northbound at Junction 8 in Hertfordshire, a road traffic collision is closing one lane. In Salford, delays are building on the M61 slip road to the M60 southbound, with congestion adding 10 minutes. In Scotland, the M74 southbound is restricted at Wraith Interchange due to a broken-down vehicle. In Hampshire, expect slow traffic on the A34 southbound between the A272 and the M3 junction. And on the trains, Great Western Railway has replacement buses between Liskeard and Looe, no trains between Parr and Newquay, plus disruption at Salisbury. While Northern has problems between Harrogate and York. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
There's just 3 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to make 2026 the year of yes. That's yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to making all of those dreams come true this year. Just make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
All too often, people will be sitting at home watching a press conference live, and they'll hear loads of questions being asked, and they'll be thinking, that's not my question, that's not my concern.
We don't care whose feathers we ruffle. We ask the questions that you want answering.
You're all standing on the street protesting and want to have an open discussion.
My name's Patrick Christie's. I do a show for GB News in the UK. Is it possible to talk to you quickly?
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now.
Well, this is the best view ever of Whitehall, looking out across all the tractor drivers of England who've come together to make their point.
Hello, so as you can see, I'm here in Westminster as the protest begins.
Yes, I'm very much in the thick of it.
Look, we're challenging narratives here at GB News, and that's what sets us apart.
Hello there, it's 6 o'clock. I'm Michelle Dewberry, and this is Jubes & Co coming up tonight.
You know, in your heart of hearts, that our wonderful country is sick.
Well, yeah, we know that already, thanks. And Reform UK seem to think that part of the remedy may be Nadeem Zahawi. That is their biggest defection yet. What do you make to it? Also, a parliamentary debate today responding to over 1 million people who are demanding an early general election. So you tell me, do you think that there should be one? And if so, tell me when. And all of this notion that you can shove anyone into a bikini online and you can really do appalling things when it comes to images of children, this will become a criminal offence this week, apparently. What do you think to that? And I also want to talk to you about one of the most bizarre benefit stories I've ever heard in my life, and that, ladies and gents, is saying something. I've got all of that and a lot more keeping me company. My panel tonight, the head of policy for Reform UK, Zia Youssef, and alongside him, the Labour MP, Barry Gardner. But before we get stuck in, here are your 6 o'clock news headlines.
Good evening, it's 1 minute past 6. I'm Katie Bowen in the GB newsroom. Technology Secretary Liz Kendall says no woman or child should live in fear of having their images manipulated by technology. That's as she announced that creating non-consensual intimate images will be made a criminal offence this week. Speaking in the House of Commons, Liz Kendall said the creation of these images is child sexual abuse, adding that lives have been devastated by this content. The intervention comes as Britain's media regulator, Ofcom, has launched a formal investigation into X over claims its AI tool Grok is being used to generate sexualised images of women and children. Ofcom says it gave the company a deadline to explain how it's protecting UK users and has now fast-tracked a probe into whether it's breaking the Online Safety Act. The Technology Secretary said sexualised images created by the AI chatbot are weapons of abuse.
Sharing intimate images without someone's consent or threatening to share them, including images of people in their underwear, is a criminal offence for individuals and for platforms. The Data Act, passed last year, made it a criminal offence to create or request the creation of non-consensual intimate images. And today, I can announce to the House that this offence will be brought into force this week.
Elsewhere today, former Conservative Chancellor Nadeem Zahawi has defected to Reform UK, declaring Britain is drinking at the Last Chance saloon. Standing alongside Nigel Farage in London, Mr Zahawi said the country really does need Farage as Prime Minister to put it back